The story began with the fact that someone tried to kill the main character named Van Ting. He was shot and was already lying on the ground, bleeding and wondering if this was how he would die. At that moment, he moved to the school, where he found himself safe and sound. The main character was asked if everything was all right with him and how he thought about going for a drink at the Rose Bar tonight. He looked at Shujie and wondered if they had known each other before and also why he looked so young. After that, he decided to look at himself because he remembers that he died. But when he saw himself as a young man, he was even more surprised. He realized that he had been reborn and began to calm himself down and force himself to behave as if nothing had happened, because the past should not be allowed to repeat itself. He told Shujie that he was fine and was just a little tired, so it was better for them to go themselves in the evening. After that, Shujie ran to the other guys to watch how the goddess punished the bullies. He came over to look at it, and at that moment he realized that she truly deserves the title of Supreme Martial Artist, and these brats do not spare themselves at all. He further wondered why he had not noticed before that He Man-rong was so long-legged and had a good figure in high school, and whether she was really a top martial artist and what was going on in this world where he ended up. At that moment he coughed, and his friend asked what was wrong with him, and said that in his opinion he was somewhat absent-minded today. He replied that everything was fine, and that it was probably better for him to go home now than to stay at school. 30 years ago, a spatial crack appeared in the sky, connecting this world with other worlds on the Xingwu continent. There was a force there that allows one to comprehend and develop combat power. Scientists have studied the force and found that it is most likely dark matter. With the appearance of cracks in space, the Earth underwent significant changes, and terrestrial creatures also began to be exposed to dark matter. The vegetation became more lush and taller, and some species that had long disappeared appeared again. Animals became larger, and their physical characteristics improved. Changes have not spared human bodies either. A lot of people just went crazy. World-famous countries began to cooperate in crack research. They sent soldiers and experts from everywhere to find a way to enter the Xingwu continent. These people were called harbingers. After much research and experimentation, people on Earth were able to begin training. Finally, the countries unanimously decided to reveal their methods of practice and enter the era of martial arts with the people. The main character wondered whether everything had really changed so much, and what had become of the Wang family in general. He also wondered if these people he was going home to were his real parents. He saw that even the doors had changed, but still he decided to open them and shout to Mom and Dad that he was back. Mom asked him to get himself in order because soon they would be eating. He put himself in order as his mother asked, and after that they all ate at the table together. After that, he went and lay down on the bed and remembered that in his previous life, the Wang family humiliated people and were eventually driven out. Just a month later, the group of Father Shinton and Grandfather Rongsheng went bankrupt. After the Wang family fell apart, the father Wang Shengguo was killed. Soon the mother, Li Shumei, died of depression, and he himself also decided to run away, but he never expected what the result of his cowardice would be. The result of his cowardice was his death. He didn't realize any of this until he died. He realized that he needed to become stronger because this was the only way to protect the people dear to him. When he met the man, he remembered that he truly lived up to the title of the best and splendid university. This person asked for his assistance during a scheduled inspection that will now be carried out. When checking, he wondered whether it was really the runes of power that were depicted on the body, with the help of which the damage was increased many times over. Even if martial artists were shot in the forehead, most likely, in his opinion, they could remain crippled. After checking, he approached the girl, who asked if he had signed up for admission. He answered positively to her question. She said that if he was a junior student, then it was better for him to go to the second study hall. He thanked her for the direction and left. Having gone where he needed to go, he saw how everyone around him received points by performing actions. He decided to try this on himself, and in the end he realized that he had a system of the god of war, which could help him very well in the near future. Seeing the main character, who did not immediately understand what was going on, those around him wondered if he had lost his head. Seeing the girl in front of him, he asked for forgiveness and explained that it was very light on their floor, and he just wanted to see what was there, and very carried away, rested his head on her hips. Realizing that he was not completely understood, he realized that most likely others do not see what he sees. While he was looking at the display of the God of War system, someone touched him with his hand and called him to attention. He wondered if anyone could really see this besides him, after which he turned around and asked if something had happened. This man said, addressing him as a colleague, that he thought he was surprised, and that most likely he was an unsurpassed martial artist. After that, he offered to choose one of the proposed cards. He chose. This man said that he would not achieve greatness if he continued to fool around, and, hoping that he understood this, asked him to follow him. because he could teach him the basics. At some point, the main character wondered if the main method used on the Xingwu continent was actually the 9 sets of radiogymnastics of the Golden Kingdom. The bubbles were quickly running out of time, so the mentor delayed their disappearance a little. He even met a chubby guy who became his victim. During the chase, the plump guy asked why he was chasing him. The main character replied that he just wanted to practice. After a while, he finally leveled up enough, and he really didn't expect that he would be able to develop his boxing skills and improve his fundamentals. Coming home after pumping, he told Mom and Dad that he had come and also said that he was very hungry. Mom replied that after she and his dad ate, there were still some egg noodles left for him. After that, she suggested that he sit down while she brought it to him. While he was eating, his father told him that he had returned so late that he was very worried while he was gone. The main character reported that he practiced martial arts in the North Star. His father touched his forehead and asked if he had a fever, or for some other reason he began to talk nonsense, or maybe he fell in love. The main character answered negatively to his questions. The father asked if he remembered correctly that he used to not like martial arts, but now he suddenly liked it. The main character replied that he suddenly felt like it, so he went there. The father asked if it was really that simple. He replied that this is exactly how it is. After such an answer, the father said that since he had made such a decision, he would support him in this and even hire him a good teacher to teach him. The main character asked his father not to hire anyone yet, because he wants to first find out if he has talent. He asked to be allowed to work out alone in the gym for several days. Father said that as one of the 3 famous Huaxia martial arts museums, the North Star definitely has superiority. The main character said that he was full and was going to rest first, and tomorrow he plans to go to the martial arts hall again to continue training. The father asked his wife not to forget to ask him to buy meat tomorrow, because their son would need strength for training. His mother said that she certainly knows how much he loves him. On the second day, the main character came to the Polar Star and said hello to everyone. He wondered how much he had raised his power level. After checking, he realized that his current strength was at a low skill level and was quite suitable for his physique and qualities. The same applies to speed. He just doesn't know yet how to transform it all. He further decided that he needed to work hard today to reach the average level. One of those nearby saw the main character and wondered if this was the guy who behaved strangely yesterday and who is still here today. He looks good, but it's a shame that he's mentally retarded and that it's best to stay away from him. A little later, the main character realized that he already had ingenuity and that even the basics of wielding a sword had appeared. Then he realized that he had come across this copy of a series of shadows just in time and that he needed to try it somewhere. The guy who wanted to stay away from the main character, noticing what he was doing, wondered if this guy had practiced 9 sets of radio gymnastics of the Golden Kingdom yesterday. Seeing that the main character stopped, he wondered if this was all and whether he would do well, considering that he had only practiced with a sword 2 times and had already gone to boxing. He also noticed obvious problems with his head. Having asked the main character what kind of monster he was, he began to run away, realizing that he had only trained a couple of times with a sword and had already mastered the basic art. He was very frightened by such progress. Another, running away with him, noticed that the main character had also begun to practice boxing. Seeing the teacher, those running away saw salvation in him, because the main character stopped and greeted the teacher. Peng asked not to call him teacher, otherwise he would feel like a stranger. Peng also said that he is not that talented, and that he is already over 20, but he is still only a high-level martial artist and can only rely on hard training. After that, he said that he would go to the 3rd floor, where he could go too. The main character understood that now is the best time to gain trust. After thinking, he ran up to the girl and asked if she believed in fate. She asked why he suddenly decided to ask such a thing. He went on to say that he noticed that she was also practicing the Tathagata's big palm and asked if she could teach him. At the same moment, he decided to run away, saying that he still had some business to do and that he would see her later. After a while, when almost everyone had already left, someone was also leaving and asked if he was going to leave, because it was already quite late. The main character replied that he would soon go enjoying achieving an average level of skill. He eventually came home. Mom asked him to eat slowly and asked how today's training went. He replied that the training went well and that even one of the older students said that he was quite talented. The mother sat down and told the father that their son had already grown up. The father said that it is good to have talent and asked the protagonist to train hard and not worry about the resources spent on martial arts. The main character understood that he was no longer an ignoramus, and that when he truly became a high-level martial artist, he would be able to show it off in front of his friends. And he decided not to tell his parents about his average level yet. Shuji called him at that moment and informed him that they were already sitting at the Rose Bar and invited him to join them. He agreed to his proposal. He told Mom and Dad that he would go and unwind a little. Father said that since he had been training all day today, he could really go and rest. Mom asked not to stay late. He agreed with them. Approaching the bar, he noticed that this was a rather familiar place for him. After all, after the Wang family disappeared, he never came here again. This time he decided that he would not allow himself to relax, because the revival was given to him in order to change everything. He met with them and said that they were a bit early. Shujie replied that he was late. The main character said that the night is short and the fun is just beginning and asked why leave so early. Sitting down next to them, he turned to Yu Hao and said that he had not seen him for a long time. He replied that recently his father caught him practicing martial arts, but today he still sneaked away. Yu Hao further boasted that he was already a low-level martial artist. Shujie asked Yu Hao why he didn't say a word about it earlier and said that he was the only one who had achieved such a rank. In the future, if they mock him, they will now look for him. The girl asked the main character if he really wouldn't even drink, reminding him that they had been waiting for him for quite a long time. The girl also said that she was bored. The main character at this time asked what was wrong with Yuan Zhenghua. Shujie replied that he was hanging around Li Rongchen like a dog, and that he did not have enough time for them. The main character tried to calm him down by saying that everyone has their own preferences and that you shouldn't talk like that, judging him. A drunk guy approached a girl and wanted to have fun with her. Yu Hao tried to stop him and make it clear that the girl had protectors. That guy rebuffed him, and the main character asked Yu Hao how he was feeling. He replied that he had the highest level among low-level martial artists and was very close to mid-level masters. That guy said that it seemed to him that Yu Hao still had some strength left, so he wanted to finish him off. The main character decided to beat him up, and he did it much better than Yu Hao. After his attacks, the main character told him that he would not be able to take a blow. He also said that he would not allow him to attack his friends. He also tried to resist and stop his attacks and strike back, but the main character turned out to be stronger and hit him very hard. He realized that he was an intermediate level master and asked the main character if he really thought that the average level was amazing. The main character replied that although this is a little different, with this level he can already do whatever he wants. That guy asked the main character what his name was and said that he would kill him now. The main character called Li Rongchen's name and asked why he was afraid and did not attack. He also promised to give him half an hour to call someone, but also said that he wouldn't wait long. The girl told the main character that he did a little wrong when he said Li Rongchen's name. After all, if he knew this, he would hate him with all his heart. Shujie asked the main character why he didn't say that he was so strong. The main character replied that the reason was that they didn't ask him about it. Shujie said that if he doesn't tell them, it means that he is not completely honest with them, and therefore he will pay for today's wine. The girl attacked him and asked him to stop. He retracted his last words after that. During this time, the two hid, and one asked the other if they would just let them leave. The manager asked what else they could do and whether he was going to ask them to stay. The manager also added that the young man has an average level of skill and his life story is clearly not so simple. You should also remember that Zhao Gongbao is drunk and getting into trouble today, and that this is all because of him. Next, the manager thought about telling the boss about this. After arriving home, Bai Wei reported this to the main character and wished him good night. On the second day at the Martial Arts Museum, the main character observed that everyone around him came quite early and began to practice diligently. However, in his diligence he does not admit defeat. Many people greeted him when they saw him and realized that he was behaving strangely again. Looking at the board of the God of War system, he saw amazing results. At that moment, he decided it was time to go up to the second floor through the passage to the middle level and look around. The one who thought he was crazy told the main character that in the Martial Arts Museum, there is a rule that low-level masters are not allowed to go up to the second floor. The main character replied that he knew this and thanked him for his understanding. He asked if he remembered correctly that he came only yesterday. Someone told him that he came on Friday evening, and after 2 days of training, he was able to become an intermediate-level martial artist. Despite all the warnings, the main character got up and opened the door. One of those present there told the main character that this was already the second time and asked if he was still tired of it. The main character laughed at the fact that he was training alone and offered to join him. Running away from the main character, he offered to fight in this case, and if he loses, he will train alone. The main character asked what would happen if he lost, whether he would recognize him as a senior in this case. He continued to run away and replied that this would never happen and that he might not even dream about it. The main character caught up with him and defeated him. He realized that the main character is so fast that he can easily win. The main character then turned to the chubby guy and suggested that he prepare to admit defeat. He extended his hand to him and realized that he was now much more interesting to watch than before. Puffy shook his hand and said that from now on he would consider him an older brother as he asked. After that, the main character hugged him and asked him not to worry because they had a completely win-win situation because he would cover him in the future. The main character realized at that moment that one long-term relationship had already been built and asked the others if anyone else wanted to train with him. One said that this boy is even stupider than he seems. Another told him that he probably doesn't know that he's been like this since the first floor and that he doesn't even know what kind of family he comes from. The main character, without waiting for an answer to his question, decided to leave and told the plump guy as he left that he would work out for the time being, while he would go compete a little. Pukliash wondered at that moment if everything was okay with his head. After a short competition, he saw that he had almost managed to reach a high level of martial arts student, and of course thanks to a glitch in the system, development was happening quickly. He understood that the inexplicable revival in this glitch had appeared for a reason, but now he would have to rely on it. He also decided that since he had chosen him and he needed to figure everything out first. At noon the next day, Baiwei told the main character that lately it has been difficult for her to meet him because he does not come on weekends. He told her that he was just a little busy and that they would talk about it later. Yu Hao saw at that moment and asked if Yuan Zhenghua was coming towards them now. Baiwei asked who the idiot next to him was it Li Rongchen? Shujie replied that it was definitely him, but something had obviously happened to him. They started laughing at them, and the main character asked them why they were looking at him, because this was not his doing. Li Xiao asked why they were laughing so much. Shujie replied that with such and such a look, he clearly does not shine with beauty and grace. Li Xiao said that he would not allow anyone to make fun of him, no matter what he looked like, and he decided to beat him for it. The main character stopped the blow and told Li Xiao that his brother just wanted to say hello and that he shouldn't take everything so personally. Li Xiao said that this is how he perceives everything today, and then asked him to let go of his hand. The main character didn't let go. Li Xiao was already angry as he continued to ask him to let go of his hand. The protagonist let go of his hand, causing him to fall to the floor, slightly embarrassing himself in front of everyone. After his fall, the main character told him that he himself asked to be released and that now there is no need to blame him for this. He began to run away with his friend, and while running away he told the main character that he would remember this after training in the martial arts hall in the decisive battle. Baiwei asked the main character if he would really fight with him. Shujie asked if he was confident that he would defeat Li Rongchen. The main character asked why they were so interested in this, because he did not say that he would go there. Sometime later, Li Xiao approached the main character at school and said that he assumed that he was bullying him. He further said that since such a situation had arisen, then in this case he proposed to fight right here. Baiwei asked Li Rongchen not to be so reckless, because the main character had not yet said what they would fight on, and therefore they could still use something easier. The main character reassured her and said that the result would still be the same, regardless of what they use. Li Xiao confirmed his words, adding that in any case he would lose. He also said that he would show them what it meant to be a blade master. During the battle, he realized that everything was not at all as he had planned, and wondering how this was possible, he decided to run away. The main character suggested ending this now, not letting him do it. At some point, he saw the main character standing with his back to him and informing him that he was vulnerable. He tried to wound him, but the main character began to dissolve before his eyes, without receiving a single scratch. While Li Xiao was considering his dissolution, the main character was behind him and eventually defeated him. Next, the main character told the guys taking Li Xiao away from him that he just had a concussion, so they could take him away. They agreed with him. After defeating Li Rongchen, his friends rejoiced at his success. One of the guys stood back and wondered how he got so strong, and if he would hold a grudge against him for betraying him. At that moment, he realized that if he had known then, he would not have acted this way. The main character was busy with thoughts at this time. He realized that speed played a huge role in defeating Li Rongchen today. Sometime later, the main character saw Lin Huhan and wondered if she was working part-time again. Her colleague offered to take her home after work. Another colleague suggested the same thing, arguing that they live on the same street. A third colleague reminded the two that they both lived 108,000 miles from her home, and so they had better get on with their jobs. Lin Huhan told them that she did not need this help and could get home on her own. While she was telling them this, the main character approached her and asked her to pour him a mug of tea with milk. A colleague asked her who he was. She replied that the main character is her desk neighbor. Colleagues started laughing at her answer and said that he did not look like just some neighbor at his desk. The main character realized that now it is not surprising why she has such an expression on her face. After that, he asked her what time she finished work and if she wanted to go with him. She replied that it just so happened that it was time for her, so she agreed to go with him. They went out to the bicycle parking lot together. She thanked him for everything and said that she would go on her own. He asked if she was sure of this, because it would be much better if he took her, pointing to her colleagues watching her. She then tossed him the helmet and asked if he really wanted her to get on the bike. He returned the helmet to her, which she put on her head, and suggested that they go, otherwise it was getting late and they might miss their first lesson tomorrow because of this. On the way, he asked her to hold on to him and not fall. Next, the main character asked her how she would thank him for his help in getting rid of the two enemies. She promised to help him with his college entrance exams because that's why she was appointed his desk mate. They stopped at her request in a place where none of the enemies would see them, and she said that she would go further herself because it would be easier for him. When she left him, he asked to look at her in the bicycle basket. She looked there and noticed the milk tea there, which he ordered before going out. He said after that he ordered the drink for her and also clarified that he had not taken this drink for a long time and that he did not like the taste of it, so he would not accept it back. She asked him what he was talking about because she remembers him drinking one a week ago at school. He replied that it was just a joke and asked her to quickly go home, otherwise it was already quite late. She said she thinks he's been acting strange lately, like he's been replaced. He told her that she was too worried about him. She left, and after that he heard a shot not far from him and wondered where it was. Then he noticed martial arts students not far from him, who were clearly hostile. Among this company there was a boss and subordinates, and one of the subordinates asked the boss what was going on. The boss replied that the policeman would arrive soon, and therefore he asked to take the main character hostage. The subordinate drew the boss's attention to the fact that the main character began to run away. They asked him not to run away, scaring him with shots, and also asked him to come closer to them. The main character stopped running, turned around, raised his hands and asked not to shoot, saying that he could help them. He understood that he needed to calm down and that he couldn't be led by emotions, because that's how you could actually catch a bullet. The boss approached him and, saying that he was talking nonsense, hit him, after which he asked his subordinates to grab him. Then they grabbed him and took him into the car in order to then leave the place before the police arrived. Already in the car, the boss asked the driver to leave quickly because the police were already following them. The subordinate asked the main character why he had such shortness of breath, considering that it was not he who took the hostage and escaped. The main character replied that he was just an ordinary person and that he was also tired of this. He understood that now was not the best time to escape, and perhaps he would have such an opportunity when they decided to take a break. There were a lot of policemen driving behind them, and seeing this, the boss demanded that the driver get rid of them. When the police started shooting, the boss showed the hostage with a gun pointed at him and asked them to lay down their weapons, otherwise he would make this guy meet God. After some time of pursuit, they managed to remove the police. The main character realized that these bandits even went so far as to kill the police, and now the persecution has been stopped. He already believed more that he would be killed if he managed to escape. They arrived at some place and got out of the car. They also asked the main character to come out with them. After that, they went into the forest, and one of the subordinates said on the way that right behind the forest there was a hardware store in which they could hide from the police. The main character realized at that moment that they had just escaped and they didn't care about him yet, and so he decided that he only had one chance. He understood that they were all terrible people, and therefore he should not reproach himself for what he would do. The boss warned them all to be careful and not fall into the ditch. At that moment something happened and they decided to see what it was. Looking at the lying boss, they realized that he was killed by the hostage whom they had taken with them. But they didn't find him nearby at that moment. The main character, meanwhile, moved to a safe distance from them and saw a notification stating that his shooting skill had improved slightly. One of the subordinates found the main character and, pointing a gun at him, asked everyone to forget about it all and shoot at the main character. After all, this is the only way they can save their lives. The main character was eventually able to kill them all without receiving a single bullet in his body, and realized that although he was sick and uncomfortable, he would soon have to get used to it if he wanted to take revenge. Sometime later he saw they had a sixth pistol which probably not only he, but also the police did not know about, and he decided to use it. After some time the police arrived at the scene, from whom the main character did not run away. Having seen all this, they discovered that all the criminals had been killed, and in the end, only the hostage survived. The main character asked not to approach him because he did not want this. One of the main ones told the police that this guy was a high-level martial arts student, and it seemed like he was the one who killed them, so they should just question him without accusing him of killing them. The next day after all this, he came to school and discovered that the system can also capture learning abilities, and therefore he becomes more and more interested in learning about its nature. At that moment, Lin Huhan looked at him and wondered what happened to him and whether he was sick. He noticed this and asked what was wrong. She hugged him after that and realized that she had fallen in love with him. She also noted that she would definitely notice this embarrassment next time. Shuji approached him after that and asked if he was free on the weekend and if he wanted to hang out at Zhao's house. The main character answered him that he was just going to go to the martial arts house these days. Next, Bai Wei came up to him and hugged him. She asked him not to be such a bore, pointing out that he needed to combine work with rest. He agreed with her and said that since they were offering it, he would most likely do so, deciding to rest. As a result, over the weekend he came by invitation to Zhao's house and realized that he should not have followed their lead. After all, socializing in such a circle is much more tiring than training. At this moment, Miss Zhao came into the house and apologized for making everyone wait so long because she had to stay late. At some point, she drew attention to the main character and, turning to him, said that it seemed to her that she did not know him and therefore decided to ask from which family such a talented young man came. He told her that he was just an ordinary guest who did not deserve Miss Zhao's attention. One of those present whispered to her that he was the fifth master from the Wang family. She said that it was an honor to see the youngest of the Wang family and realized that there was no need to interfere in the affairs of the Wang family. But this guy is not at all what they say about him. Next, she announced the climax of this evening and asked to go to the hunting grounds. After all, she has prepared a special gift for the person who catches the most prey. Hearing this, the main character wondered if it was a coincidence that he had just recently unlocked the shooting skill during a kidnapping, and whether he would really have the opportunity to practice a little. Shuji told the protagonist that each weapon of the Zhou family is unique, so he suggested having some fun. The main character asked what about Bai Wei. Shuji replied that she decided to shoot with a water pistol, so they went without her. After the main character hit the rabbit, Shuji said that it was incredible because he was barely visible, but he managed to hit the target. The main character said after this that, fortunately, if they go deep into the forest, they will be able to find better prey there. At that moment, a white fox cub ran up to the main character and hid behind him, and Li Rongchen came running after him, who asked where the fox cub had gone and what they were doing here anyway. The main character answered him that they were connected by fate with this little fox, so he asked permission to leave him. Miss Zhao approached the main character and said that she also thought that this animal was very special. The main character thanked her for her help, because without her they would not have been able to keep the fox cub. Seeing an explosion not far from them, Miss Zhao asked all the guests not to panic and return to the estate immediately. And she asked her subordinates to find out what happened there, because of which she had to interrupt everything. One of the guests told the others that it was quite expected that the Zhou family's guards were advanced-level martial artists. The main character said that he also wanted to go check and asked everyone else to look after the white fox and not make noise. His friends agreed to fulfill his request. Seeing the main character running very fast, Miss Zhao wondered if this guy was an advanced-level martial arts student. Judging by his strength, it looked a lot like it. At that moment, her subordinates had already returned and informed her that the sound came from a very distant place. They checked the entire area and found nothing unusual. She asked to check everything downstairs again. Having reached the place, the main character discovered a crater that could definitely have been left by the hands of professional craftsmen. He also realized that he would not want to die under such circumstances, and therefore, in order to avoid a disastrous outcome, it was best to rely on the system. He further wondered if masters created skill bubbles during combat. After all, if he thinks correctly, then it is quite possible that among them there will be something useful. At that moment his enemy arrived and tried to kill him. The main character resisted. At some point, the main character stopped and realized that he had already used fire several times and the enemy should have already died. Fortunately, last time he hid the gun in a bird's nest 5 kilometers away, so the police never found it. Otherwise, he would have been lying there already dead. Then he saw that in this place it was possible to collect skills for the system. Having collected all the available skills, including fire and ice, he realized that they would compete with each other if they were used at the same time. But no matter what, he decided that he had to take the risk, otherwise he might still die. At some point, he realized that it seemed that his risks were justified and the system really worked. After some time, the main character returned to Zhao's house and discovered strange conversations there. His friends approached him, and then Miss Zhao saw him and said that although the main character does not talk much about himself, but since he is an advanced martial arts student, he probably managed to find out something. Xu Jie told him that he was noticed by her when he left, and after that everyone was only waiting for his return. The main character told his friend that he understood him, and at the same time he himself thought that it was a little frivolous to give himself away. But now it is no longer important. After this, he announced that Miss Zhao was just joking, and that he could confidently say that he was an ordinary student with no special knowledge, unlike her experienced bodyguards. She asked him where he had been for so long in this case, if all this was exactly as he said. The main character replied that it didn't matter because he left solely to satisfy his curiosity and ultimately found nothing. He understood that presumably there was a fight among martial artists, but it was unknown which ones exactly. He also added that he only knew that the area around the explosion was scorched. He remembered that he created the flame, and therefore, when everything is revealed, he will be in trouble. He said that this was really all, and besides, her bodyguards also discovered the fire, so he returned back. He recalled at that moment how her bodyguards, whom he had been watching from afar, came to the scene and wondered where the fire had come from in this place. He also made sure several times that he had left no evidence. He went on to say that when he first got back, he was a little out of sorts, so he decided to take a walk. At that moment, he remembered how he moved away and hid the secret weapon in his motorcycle. Otherwise, this could become proof of his involvement. He assured Miss Zhao that he was not lying to her with the idea that he was simply not revealing the details of what was happening. She told him that he was mistaken if he considered her an ordinary person who would be satisfied with such an explanation. He asked what was the point of asking him a question if she refused to believe him. He also suggested testing him with a lie detector. She said that in this case, she suggested going back because it would be impolite to continue this conversation in the presence of dear guests. The main character invited Xiaojie to leave because they were now free. He agreed with his proposal. Bai Wei asked the main character if he could give her a ride home on a motorcycle because she didn't have her own. He agreed to this. He took her home and came to his own home after that, and he began to look further and understand that it was good that he went there. After all, otherwise he would never have been able to open access to everything that he opened access to while in that place. This time he got a really valuable treasure because these runic weapons are worth several million each. His father gave him only 3 million, thereby ruining a lot for him. No doubt he was poor and ambitious. In his hands is what those masters fought for, and he has no idea what caused their interest, but this is even easier for him. After all, he does not have any special talent, and if it were not for the system, he would never have become a martial arts student in his life. He becomes increasingly interested in learning more about her. When he woke up in the morning, he realized that he slept even better than after training his knee joints. Arriving at school, he realized that fortunately, in his opinion, he was not late. Entering the classroom, he was faced with the fact that a classmate expressed great gratitude to him. Yu Hao said that without him, they would not have been able to take advantage of this opportunity. He asked them what happened. One of the classmates replied that the Ministry of Education had issued a decree on the procedure for conducting martial arts examinations, according to which intermediate-level students could now also participate. Another classmate added that fortunately he told them about this in advance, otherwise they would be scared and would not be able to learn. Another said that everything she said was true. At that moment he did not understand when this happened. And he remembered at that same moment that he had recently actually announced this in the same class. And then he made such a fuss because of the words his father said to him before his rebirth. And he told everyone after that he was still classmates with them, and therefore he asked them not to forget about him when they succeeded in their exams. He further approached Bai Wei and said that they were too optimistic. He sat down next to her and asked if she was also a mid-level master. He also said that he noticed that she had been reading a lot about martial arts lately, and so he suggested that she try something, which she eventually thanked him for. Then he looked at her and realized that she was young and innocent, and that he should also live up to it. Then he was distracted from her into his thoughts that meditating all night, of course, is good, but why if to fall asleep he only needs to sit for 5 minutes in class? He decided to go to the pet store and find out if someone could hatch from the egg that he had recently. On the way to the pet store, he saw a celestial monster flying towards him and realized that most likely the egg belonged to him. He also understood that even though he had nowhere to run, he must at least try to do so. The main character ran, and the monster flew after him. But at some point, someone shot him and the monster stopped chasing the main character after the shot. The main character asked who the man was who killed that huge bird with one shot, because he was strong enough. The one he asked answered that this man was part of the city guard. The main character saw skill bubbles and wondered if even such monsters could drop them. He also wondered why they were empty, since the reward for murder should have been greater. The guards approached the main character and asked him not to approach for his own safety. They also asked for patience while they finished clearing the city as quickly as possible. The main character saw and understood how city security works in the form of a special organization that was created to protect cities around the world. All of them, except office workers, are incredibly strong. Arriving home, the main character decided to look for what this skill called spiritual power was that he received today, and what exactly it was. Having activated it, he saw that it was as if he were wearing colored contact lenses, and if you look closely, they look like raven eyes. But how it works is not entirely clear. Through those eyes, he saw that the egg turned out to be the power of fire, and he wondered if the spiritual power skill could give him the ability to detect talents. He also realized that he could now use this skill to find out how strong a fighter is. At some point, he felt a little dizzy and then turned off his skill. He also realized that spiritual power is characterized by the accumulation of the owner's internal energy, and it seems that he cannot use it indefinitely. But this skill still has great potential and is worth paying more attention to. He went further into the forest and realized that someone was approaching him. At that moment, he activated his spiritual power, and seeing the power of the one approaching, he realized that he was a martial arts master. That master asked him to return what he had grabbed from Mount Baoan. The main character asked what other mountain, saying that he had never been there. The master asked where, in this case, he got this sword and gloves, if he had never been there, and if he thought that he would not be found if he covered his tracks. Next, the master once again asked to give him all this, because otherwise he would show him the difference between a student and a martial arts master. The main character agreed to give him everything on the condition that he would come closer to him, and promised that he would save his life. He approached, and the main character tried to wound him. The master said that he knew that he was not so simple, so he was on guard all this time. After fighting a little more, the main character was still able to wound the master. The master was very surprised by this. After being wounded, the master decided to use the explosion of the Earth's core, which had previously helped him in many cases. But the main character decided to interrupt this process and prevent the master from carrying out his plans. As a result, the main character still killed the martial artist, who wanted to take from him everything that he took from the mountain. This time, after the murder, he took away his earth control skill, which became one of his additional skills in the end. He realized that he was moving faster and faster towards becoming an all-powerful martial artist. He also realized that the world was truly dangerous, and he wondered if there was a way to use both powers at once. Sometime later, while at home, he received a notification that his custom-made gun storage case was ready. He realized that it was great that the case was ready, because it meant that the sword and gloves he had found could be safe. But at the same time, he was a little upset that this was another large expense from his already small budget. Next, he was asked for his martial artist ID. He was a little upset and decided to ask the store if they could send the product first, and then he would indicate his ID. The seller asked the main character to first go to the Martial Arts Association and get a certificate, because he would be able to use runic weapons only if he had a certificate. After that, he came to school and told Lin Huhan that he would need to go to the Martial Arts Association and asked him to cover for him. She stood up and started screaming, asking why he was skipping class again and why he needed the Martial Arts Association. He replied that he had one very important matter and asked him not to worry because he would not do anything he was not sure of. He went on to say that he was leaving anyway, whether she agreed to cover for him or not. Lin Huhan understood that it was possible to obtain a martial arts master's certificate from the association, and if he went there, it means he had most likely already reached this level. When he arrived at the building, he saw a stunning building that he really liked. Many visitors to this place, most likely in his opinion, are also masters, and since there are a lot of people in this building, it's better for him to disguise himself. Approaching the right people in disguise, he said that he had come here in order to receive a certificate as a martial arts master. The girl asked to follow her instructions, according to which he must first go inside the machine and then receive an ID in less than 10 minutes. At some point, while he was in the apparatus, he was congratulated on becoming a martial arts master, after which he was asked to wait a little longer while the certificate was produced. One of the workers received a notification, came to look and saw that Wang Teng became a martial arts master at the age of 17. He asked Lao Fu to also look at it. Lao Fu looked and said that his name was somehow familiar to him, because a couple of days ago one of his guys gave him the reporting information, and it seems that it was written about him. After watching the video camera footage, he said that it was definitely him, because the report said that he had risen to the advanced level in less than a month after joining the martial arts school. He also said that he wanted to watch him, and he has already become a martial artist, and it seems that he's really a genius. My partner said that it seemed like there was a dark horse in this year's martial arts exam. Coming out of the building, he was glad that the master's ID was already in his hands, and since according to the rules of the association, this card gives him many privileges, he really liked it. At that moment, he remembered that he needed to hurry up and send Master Lu an ID, and then return to class. After school, Lin Huhan asked the main character to wait for her. He agreed. He further told her that if there was anything he could do to help her, she could tell him right now. She asked if he could lend her money. He asked her how much she needed. She replied that she needed 150,000. She also said that she knows that this is a lot, but she plans to return it soon, namely after she earns it after the exam at her part-time job. He asked her to name a PayPal account to which he could transfer money to her. At that moment he wondered why she needed so much money. After transferring the funds, he told her that she should not worry, and added that it was better and more important to spend time studying now. After she left, he became interested in what difficulties were happening in her life, and decided that he should find out. He followed her to the grocery store and realized that apparently her family had a small store, which was probably quite difficult. At the same moment, he saw several men, the main one of whom began to threaten him, saying that if he continued to look at him, he would gouge out his eyes. He walked away and did not look at them, but then he heard that they entered the store and began to demand money. Having overheard that they were already demanding $200,000 instead of $150,000, which was 3 days ago, he decided to go in and deal with them. The bald man asked if he had really come to save the beauty. He replied that he did not come here for her sake, but in order to get rid of a couple of bastards. The bald man sent his accomplices to kill him, and the main character advised them to be careful and not touch the store of the Lin Huhan family from his class. After defeating several of them, he dragged them outside, telling them that it was time to continue having fun there. The bald man asked 2 more to avenge those who had been defeated, but he advised them to attack together and not one at a time. The bald boss said that this was not the end, and that they would meet again, and began to run away. The main character threw the phone of one of his accomplices at this bald boss and hit him the first time, forcing him to stop. The main character approached him and said that it was for this reason that he should not talk nonsense when he was trying to escape. He also wondered if ordinary people also left behind skill bubbles. Continuing to finish him off, the main character asked him to quickly hand over the contract, because of which he came to the store. The boss gave him the contract. The main character approached the family of the store owners with it, and handing it over to them, asked if everything was correct. After that, he asked the boss how he could demand $200,000 if they only borrowed $100. He also asked if it was because demanding many times more is much easier than stealing. The main character also told him that he might not even think about it, and that he should follow the news, because it is quite possible that he killed those bank robbers recently. The boss admitted his guilt, said that he was wrong, and asked for mercy. The main character asked Lin Huhan to transfer him $100,000. Lin Huhan thanked him for his help and asked what he was doing in this part of the city. The main character asked if she would believe him if he said that he followed her. Lin Huhan said that she would not talk to him anymore, and now she is leaving to check how her mother is doing. He went into the store to pick her up, and her mother thanked him and also said that she would return the money as soon as possible. She also asked if he wanted to stay and have dinner with them. He asked if they really wanted this. Lin Huhan asked her mother what she was thinking about, since he was just her desk neighbor. Mom asked her to take the guest upstairs while she went to get the ingredients to prepare dinner. As he walked up the stairs, he asked her where her father was and whether he was in the store now. She told him that he would meet him later. They eventually went upstairs into the room where her father was sleeping. She told him that she was back. Seeing him, the main character asked Lin Huhan when her father managed to become like this. She replied that her father used to be a martial artist, but one day when he returned from the Sinu continent, this happened. Not only did he lose his legs, but his spirit was also broken, so he returned crippled. At that moment, the main character realized that he never thought that the world of martial arts could be so cruel. The main character asked Lin Huhan why she continues to practice martial arts and wants to take part in the exam if she knows about all the horrors of this world. She replied that she wanted to take revenge, because one day her father's partner said that their rivals set up an ambush, dragging her father into all this trouble, and now she wants to take revenge on them. He asked what about the rest of his team, and if they were aware of her family's current situation. She replied that they spend most of their time fighting on the Sinu continent and cannot return. She also said that recently her younger sister suddenly fell ill, and her mother had no choice but to borrow money from those bandits. The main character asked in surprise if she really had a sister. She replied that he simply did not know about her because of his illness. He asked what happened to her. She replied that it would be good if they knew what her illness was. After that, she knocked on Chusa's room door and said that she had brought a friend and asked if they could come in. She allowed it. After opening the door, he wondered what it was and why there were so many skill bubbles. Looking at Lin Chuxiu, he wondered whether even an ordinary person could create so many skill bubbles and whether this had anything to do with her strange illness. By absorbing these bubbles, he began to gain the powers of poison. Until that moment, he did not know that such a thing even existed, and also did not understand where this girl got her connection with toxic substances. He sat down further and asked Lin Huhan what was wrong with him, noticing that he began to sweat a lot. He replied that he was just worried, standing next to her. Having waited for the absorption, he realized that he could now be exposed during the absorption. Chusia asked who he was. Huhan replied that his name was Wang Teng and that he was her friend. The main character realized that it seems that the poison of the demonic lotus is a rather rare phenomenon that neither doctors nor martial artists can handle, and that she is constantly overwhelmed with poisonous power. Now he understood why Huhan did not allow him to come closer to her and that higher powers were definitely helping her. At some point, he decided to approach Chusa. Both of these girls were against it. Chusia asked if he was afraid of her. He asked what he should be afraid of. She replied that he should be afraid of her face and the air that surrounds her. He asked, approaching her, whether the effect of her power was visible on him. She replied that she couldn't see it and asked why it didn't work on him. He replied that perhaps this is because he often drinks berry tea, which is why his immunity is strong. He invited her to even touch him if she didn't believe her. Touching his hand, she realized that it seemed like he was really okay, and she had a feeling as if the sticky air around her seemed to have dissolved, and this man seemed to be able to cure her. He realized that she understood what was happening and asked her with signs not to say anything about it to anyone. Huhan told him that if he really knew something, she hoped that he would tell her about it, because it was very important for their family. He asked her not to worry and said that if he finds a solution, he will definitely inform her about it. Chuxia asked her sister not to make his life difficult. Huhan told her that everything would be fine because her application to participate in the martial arts exam had already been accepted, after which she would become a martial artist and help find a cure for her strange illness. Chuxia told her that she thought her mother had forbidden her to practice martial arts. The main character now understands why Huhan is trying so hard. The main character could not have expected that he would receive core power. Indeed, in subsequent battles he will be able to use it together with other forces and poison the enemy before he has time to come to his senses. After that, he decided to leave, and the mother told the leaving main character that he could come more often. Huhan thanked him for everything. He told them that it was easy for him to help them. Along the way, he discovered that the shooting skill was still not that good, so he decided to go to the shooting range tomorrow and see if he could pick up some skill bubbles there. Arriving at the shooting range, he saw a guy whom everyone praised very much, and judging by the many bubbles, he realized that it looked like he was really good at it. This guy said that he is not as great as his friends think, because he once saw a shot with a change of direction and it was really great in his opinion. He also said that the shooter was too arrogant, which is why he fell for someone else's trick. He used his best skill to get rid of the girl he loved the most. The main character asked what happened next. He replied that he had a nervous breakdown and was now being treated in a mental hospital on the western outskirts of the city. Hearing about this, the main character remembered that the mental hospital was located on the western outskirts of the city and decided that it seemed like he should go there. After some time, he came to this mental hospital and seeing a doctor at the post, he realized that he needed to somehow distract him in order to get inside. Having put the doctor to sleep, he realized that now he would definitely not have any problems. Taking the keys from him, he entered one of the chambers and saw the same many skill bubbles as Chusi's, but here they were different. The man in the ward asked the main character if he knew who he was. Without waiting for an answer, he said that he was the creator of this world. The main character asked if God accidentally gave him information that it was time to take the pills. Having passed through many chambers, he approached the last of them and thought that that legendary shooter must definitely be in it. Seeing the man with the bubbles, he realized that this guy had strong energy, and it looked like he might be what he was looking for. The man approached him and told him that he knew that he had become a martial artist at such an early age. The main character asked how he knew this. The man replied that he felt it, because after all he had also been successful before. The man said that he had not smoked for a very long time, and if he could find a cigarette, it would be great. The main character at that moment remembered that he had previously stolen cigarettes from his father, and in some amazing way this man found out about them. Next, the man gave him a flash drive and asked if he understood correctly that he had come for it. The man further said that now he can go, because he wants to sleep, and he also asked to turn off the light. The main character left the room and wondered why he gave it to him just like that. He also couldn't believe that he had earned 55 soul points while he was in the mental hospital. When leaving, he understood that although this was a pleasant surprise, this place was too abnormal and it was better for him to return home now and see what was contained on the USB drive. The man realized that the main character actually believed, and accordingly, a big surprise awaits him at home. Arriving home, the main character decided to see what was on the flash drive. Having launched the content, he did not expect such a high volume of sound on one of the files. But despite this, I decided to watch it to the end because this girl is quite beautiful. A little later, he realized that it was better not to do this, wondering why there were so many units left on the progress indicator. Shooting Kung Fu is a combination of martial arts and technology. This is a unique ability that includes physical fitness, shooting, and swordsmanship skills at the same time. He noticed that the shooting skill has changed to Shooting Kung Fu, but the question now remains of how he can develop this ability. Next, he decided to purchase some runic bullets, but this is not as important now as passing the martial arts exam. A few days later, the television announced that there were 2 days left before the start of the college entrance exam and that Donghai TV wished success to all participants. The father told his son that he should not worry about the entrance exams because he could retake them in a year. Mom said that she and her father were ready for this and he shouldn't worry. Mom also said that the main thing now is the test, in which she asked him not to disgrace himself, otherwise they would be embarrassed to look people in the eyes. The father added that his mother was right and that if he failed in the exam, then he would gain confidence that he was not destined to be a martial artist. The main character asked if they really didn't believe in him that much, thinking that when he showed himself in the test, they would be in for a huge surprise. Before the exam, the teacher asked to keep their participation cards with them and not let 3 years of hard work go to waste because of a stupid mistake. After receiving their passes, they went home. At home, his parents asked if he had signed up for a martial arts exam. The main character answered positively. Father said that he heard that the martial arts exam is a real fight, and he hasn't been practicing for that long. Mom asked him not to play with his life. The main character calmed her down and said that if he was not certified as a mid-category martial artist tomorrow, then he would not need to participate in any fights. The next day, the participants saw the buses and wondered if these were the same buses that met the participants in the martial arts exam. The main character asked his father not to worry about him. His father asked him to remember that safety must come first, and if it doesn't work out, they will return next year. The main character replied that he remembers this. After his departure, his father thought that the path of studying martial arts was very difficult, and he hoped that his son would gain enormous strength and break out of the shackles of everyday life. Seeing that they were not traveling on the road that led to the Polar Star Bon Art Center, he wondered if it was possible that the qualification test would take place in a different place. Having seen and heard that people from the supervision department had arrived, the main character became interested in who they were. Lin Huhan said that she heard that there used to be a lot of cheating in the martial arts exams, but after the department intervened, it stopped. One of the main ones asked Master Fu and Chairman Qin how many promising fighters they thought they would meet this year. Qin said that he doesn't know about the large number, but there is one nugget that can become an excellent warrior. The chief asked if he was joking. Qin asked to look at the 8th group and said that since today was just a skill test, the guy might not show them his full strength. But in his opinion, he may well enter the best educational institution. Based on the test results, he was told he passed, reporting a strength of 1,000 kilograms, speed of 100 meters in 3 seconds, and a physique of 100. All 3 tests showed exorbitant values and it looks like the equipment is broken. One of the participants asked if he was cheating. Another replied that he was checked by the Department of Supervision, so this should not happen. The inspector thought that the results were falsified, but he was informed that there were no problems with the test results, so they could be made public. The main character approached Lin Huhan and asked her to tell her that he was awesome. She said that, contrary to her expectations, he really turned out to be cool. He further asked if she was finished with the tests. She replied that her performance in martial arts was not as abnormal as his, and she didn't really prepare. Li Rongshan tried to surpass the main character, but couldn't do it, and said that the main character was causing him to behave strangely. The main character said that he had nothing to do with it. Lin Huhan asked him if he wanted to call his family. He called his mother and she asked if the exam was over and what time he would return home, because she had already prepared food for him. She also reminded that even if he fails the exam, they are still mentally prepared for this, so he can return home and continue training. He told them that they didn't need to worry because he had passed the skill test. After this news, they were very happy about the results. The main character, after talking with his parents, approached young Jian and asked if his uncle worked in the education department and if he could find out in advance what the exam was like. Young Jian answered in the negative and added that it was a secret. At that moment, the school principal approached him and said that he was a very talented young man with a special body structure. The main character asked the director if he had any unusual martial arts that he wanted to pass on to him, because having mastered them, he would be able to go save the world. The director replied that he was a humorous guy and that he had nothing like that, but there was a reward system for martial arts students. He went on to say that if he was in the top 50, he would receive the starting stone, and if he was in the top 3, he would receive an additional reward in the form of a bottle of panacea. And if he takes first place, he will also receive a mystical reward. He also said that he would need luck to get ahead. The main character said that he will try his best to bring glory to the school. The main character understood that the beginning stone and panacea are mandatory attributes for the promotion of a martial artist, and besides, they are very expensive and the director probably spent a lot on them. He was surprised when they were brought to the barracks and told that this was their housing for today, after which tomorrow they would take the exam in another place. They were also told that while they were here, they were required to follow the rules of the barracks. Young Jian saw his uncle and asked why he came here. The uncle replied that he had come to talk with the main character. Having gone out with him to a place where they were not heard or seen, the main character asked Uncle Liu why he was looking for him. Liu replied that in fact, it was not he who was looking for him, but there was a person who wanted to meet him and invited him to go to him. Taking him to the boss, Uncle Liu told him that he had brought the main character as he had asked, and the boss greeted him. The main character said that he did not understand why he needed him, thinking that most likely he was the head of the education department. The boss told the main character that he was probably already a martial arts master. Uncle Liu was surprised and asked if this was true. The main character said that he is only a student, but certainly not a master. And in his thoughts he wondered how he discovered this, and was he really bluffing because he had not given himself away in any way? The boss said that it didn't matter whether he admitted it or not, but he hoped that he would do well tomorrow. Next, he asked the main character to release the real power of the martial artist and give him the star bone, which, according to him, is now his. Uncle Liu said that only the strongest and most powerful star beasts could have this star bone, because it is the most important part of their body. The main character heard earlier that inside the star bone there is a special power that can be added to a weapon. The main character asked the boss why he was giving such a precious thing to him. The boss replied that this was necessary for his promotion, because in truth, he saw great potential in him, and hoped that it would be his opportunity to advance in his career. The main character realized at that moment that this old fox is quite straightforward, and although it is good to have a star bone, he may have problems if his real power is revealed. The boss told the main character that he knew what he was thinking, so he decided to give him advice, which was that a master must fight, and to reach the top, a master needs a lot of resources. According to him, all this is achievable through persistent struggle with other people, and by hiding this, he behaves like a coward who refuses resources. And the boss also told him that he could not hide forever. 500. The main character understood at that moment that the boss was saying everything correctly, because all the masters he had met before were fighting with each other for resources. Besides, they forced him to fight too. The boss also told the main character that he has great potential, but without the right thinking, he is afraid that his path will be short-lived. After all this, he said that that was all, and asked him to forget that he was looking for him. When the main character left, the boss realized that he was too cunning and did not fall for the hook. The main character, before reaching the door, told the boss that such manipulations would not work with him. However, he accepts the deal. The boss asked if he was really playing with him like a scoundrel. The main character replied that he would not dare to do this to him, and said that it would be better if he took the star bone. The boss said that he would go far if he wanted to take this thing before the exam began. The main character said that he does all this so that he cannot change his mind about giving her to him. The boss said that in this case they would conclude a contract. The main character agreed to this condition. On the second day, the participants left the barracks and saw huge airships in the sky with runes painted on them. The leaders wished the participants successful completion of the practical test of combat skills and their return alive. 510. Next they were asked to board because they were leaving soon. After some time, already in flight, they were told that they were on their way to the exam site. One of the students said that this means that this is the famous flying boat using the original force using runes to move and the original force as the driving force. The main character asked if this is not the same as cars and planes running on the original power. He answered in the negative and said that he had heard that the technology for manufacturing airships at the original force was obtained from another country. He also added that he only knows that the technologies of another country are different. The main character said that he has been doing this for 1,000,000 years, but is still the same amateur. Lin Huhan asked if other countries really have technologies similar to theirs. Young Jian replied that access to information about other countries is very limited, but if they become martial artists, then they will have a chance to go there. The main character asked Lin Huhan why she didn't know anything considering that her father was abroad. She replied that he never discussed it, and she was little then, and after the incident, nothing was discussed at all. Young Jian looked at them and realized that these two had secrets that they had not told him. Upon arrival, the participants did not expect that they would be tested on the island. 520. After leaving, they were greeted at the third examination site of the Donghai water area. They were told that they had already been prepared with protective equipment and weapons for the exam, which would begin in 2 hours. The main character approached the onlookers and said that he had taken a weapon with him and asked if it would be possible to use it after checking. They answered him positively and said that he had a good case. They also noticed that these were all one-star runic weapons. The main character asked if everything was okay. He was told that he was fine, and that his power was the ability to release the power of this weapon, which was not a violation. The main character asked if they could give him a lighter protective suit. He was provided with it and warned that it was not very durable, so he needed to be careful with it. Lin Huhan asked the main character if she was dressed strangely. He replied that this uniform suits her very well. Seeing the super beasts nearby, the main character realized that Lin Huhan hardly had enough strength to resist the super beasts. Yang Jian said that at first he thought the exam was bullshit. But now, to be honest, he's a little scared. The main character told him that it was normal for them to be afraid. He further suggested that they noticed that there was not a single student near them who was not afraid. Then they were told that the exam would begin and that he would now announce the rules for its conduct. They further said that the exam will be held from 10 a.m. to 6 a.m. tomorrow. They will spend 1 day and 1 night in the forest, and they need to figure out food, water, and shelter themselves. 530. They were also told that if they want to be certified, they need to kill at least 5 super beasts, and the more super beasts they kill, the stronger they are and the higher their score, because when entering the university, they will have a good choice. Next, they were drawn to the communicators on their clothing and told that they were connected to their satellites, so they could monitor their condition and, in case of danger, they could press a button to call for help. Combat skills testing prohibits candidates from killing each other. However, competition still remains, so they should beware not only of super beasts, but also of other students. The martial arts exam is certainly important, but life is priceless. Therefore, they must remember that there is no need to wave their fists left and right, because there is always hope in life. Before starting, they were asked if anyone wanted to refuse. The girl drew attention to herself and said that she refused, and that she did not want to ruin herself in vain. After this, they asked those who remained, who did not refuse, to divide into 10 groups and enter the forest from different entrances. Lin Huhan asked the main character not to worry and wished him good luck. After entering the forest, the main character wandered around for an hour, but did not meet a single super beast, and now the first super beast he met turned out to be of the highest level, and he thought that he was lucky. He also understood that this beast probably hadn't discovered him yet, so striking him from behind would be the best option. After the murder, he discovered bubbles, as he did after killing many other animals and people. Among the bubbles, an empty one with the inscription "Any Indicator" fell out. He further wondered if killing super beasts and star beasts would increase the chance of empty bubbles falling out. He further realized that apparently this forest was an ideal place to obtain empty bubbles. Meanwhile, the boss was informed that there was already a student who had defeated a high-level super beast, who had a highly developed sense of battle. The boss said that he was the only top-ranking martial artist from Donghai, so it was not surprising. The governor of Donghai Jiang said that since he is of the highest rank, it is not bad, and therefore we need to keep an eye on him. 9 hours later, it was reported that half of the students had already left the exam. The boss said that in previous years it was about the same, so everything is normal. He also said that the main character is a really talented guy, since he has already killed several top-level super beasts. In his opinion, he is suitable for training at their Bailan Martial Arts Hall with priority. Qin reminded that he is, in fact, a ward of their Polar Star Hall, so you can't even dream about it. Meanwhile, fighting with the python, the main character realized that it was more difficult to cope with him, even though he was a super beast of the highest level, like that monitor lizard. The python tried to attack him further, but the main character at that moment killed him and told him that he had warned him and asked if he really thought that his preparation and training were wasted. At that moment, something was flying towards him and he was able to dodge it so as not to be killed. Next, the main character saw another exam participant who was attacking him, trying to kill him. This student, Xiao Yan, was not alone, and it turned out that he had assistants who also wanted to kill him. Xiao Yan told the main character that he is cruel. After all, being a candidate, he is quite fierce. The main character said that he kept wondering who was hunting him, and it turns out to be the slacker Li. He also recalled that he had defeated him many times and asked if he wanted the same thing again. But before the victory, he asked Li where he got these two tailing him. Li asked him to stop talking and swung his huge hammer at the main character. During the battle, Li realized that he had wasted a lot of money in order to hire these two students, who were barely holding their own against the main character. He further noticed that the main character was using the technique of a martial artist and was very surprised by this. The main character asked one of the students how his fist tasted to him. Next, he asked Li Rongchen if he wanted to try it too. Li Rongchen didn't understand why everything was the same as last time, and even much stronger. One of the hired disciples told Li Rongchen that all this was useless, because this boy would die from a tenfold lightning strike. but the main character dodged this attack and attacked himself, as a result of which he defeated his opponent without killing him, since he remembered the rules. The defeated student did not understand how it was possible that the main character had such power, but he did not. The main character looked at the skill balls and realized that all these indicators were children's toys, and since they were considered garbage, he decided not to collect them. But at some point, he saw a ball with an archery skill and wondered if even weapon skills could drop out. Taking this into account, he realized that it was worth the guy from whom this ball fell out to fall one more time, because it definitely wouldn't be unnecessary, and it was quite possible that something else interesting would come out. And he began to continue beating him in the hope of shaking all possible skills out of him. Watching this, Lee Rongchen said that the main character is very cruel. The student next to him said that he needed to run away. At that moment, the main character noticed them and headed towards them. The student asked what he was going to do. Lee Rongchen said that they had already admitted defeat and asked what else he needed from them. He asked them not to be afraid because it wouldn't hurt at all. While beating them, he didn't understand why the indicator bottles weren't falling. Although other than that, it doesn't matter anymore. After that, the main character pressed the buttons on their suits and left there. After it got dark, the main character thought that the number of super beasts should increase. Seeing the animals, he realized that this was great, because he would get a lot of bubbles after killing them. After killing the animals he saw, he received 16 points from the bubbles. After this, he discovered that something strange began to happen. Thinking that it might be an earthquake, Lin Hu-han realized that it was becoming too dangerous here. But despite this, she decided that she could not quit this exam. The boss asked what was going on there. He was told that there was a dormant volcano on this island, and it was quite possible that some kind of anomaly had occurred, after which the volcano woke up. Liu asked to immediately stop the exam and send people there to check. After all, the safety of students comes first. Next, the participants were informed that a volcano had awakened near the exam site. Therefore, the exam ended prematurely, and all participants were asked to go to the exits as soon as possible to evacuate from the forest. Hearing the announcement, the participants ran to the evacuation site. Also, birds flew from the site of the volcanic eruption, and many other animals and super beasts ran. Only the main character was not afraid and did not run away, noticing that the crater of the volcano exudes too much great power of fire. He wondered if it was because of the eruption or because of some other circumstances. Then he noticed how some fighters flew towards the mouth of the volcano. He thought that most likely these were instructors who were supposed to protect the participants, and who were given the task of getting to the volcano and finding out what was happening, and he decided to follow them. Having approached them, he noticed that they had enormous power, which they used in order to suppress and put the volcano to sleep. He also noticed that a lot of bubbles had fallen around, which he could collect. But at that very moment he realized that if he went after them and collected them, it could be a shame. Noticing that they were walking in the direction of the volcano, he suggested that it was quite possible that they wanted to get inside it. But despite all this, he realized that his life was in danger and therefore it was time for him to get out of this place. Heading to the evacuation site, he stepped on some leaf. When he picked it up and looked at it for what it was, he saw Lin Hu-han's admission to the exam. He then began to wonder where she was and whether she had run for cover as ordered. The thought even occurred to him that she could end up in a volcano. He understood that this was hardly possible, but decided that it was better to go and check it out. He eventually ran inside the volcano and activated his supervision. Looking with this supervision, he realized that the great power of fire was coming from here, and this was already a very serious problem. The further he walked, the hotter it became, and he assumed that there must be something strange in the cave. Hearing the super beasts, he hoped that Lin Hu-han would not run into them if she was inside. He also thought that the examiners were too careless, because if this were not so, then such a catastrophe could not have happened. Seeing the super beasts, the main character realized that they were still here, and he wondered if they could eat Lin Hu-han and if she was here at all. Then rescuers arrived at the scene, and one of them said that the venom of the volcanic salamander is very strong, so you need to be careful. After the salamander spit, the main character saw indicators of great power that had fallen out. The rescuers fought with the salamanders for a while, and one of the rescuers said that they had to leave because 2 volcano salamanders were difficult to deal with. Another said that they would not be able to do this because they blocked their exit. Watching them, the main character realized that these 2 animals were acting in harmony, and accordingly, those 3 warriors were in danger. Li Quan said that now they can only fight to the bitter end and hope that help will arrive to them soon. After all, if it doesn't exist, then in the end, only corpses will remain from them. Next, she asked Lin Dong if he was okay. He answered positively and added that he would hold out for some more time. The main character, observing this whole situation, realized that he could not just continue to stand and look at all this. He helped them a little, but at that moment, they at first did not quite understand what was happening, And then, realizing that they had been helped, they decided to continue finishing off these salamanders. Realizing that this was not enough, he decided to openly kill these beasts with monstrous strength. Seeing that the salamanders were trying to escape, the main character used his ice fist. In the end, he defeated him with the help of other warriors and realized that super beasts are really difficult to fight. He was helped by his endurance and sudden attacks, and he also used the elements of fire and water, with the help of which he won. To cope with this beast, he had to spend a lot of bubbles that he had collected, and besides, his muscles hurt. While he was thinking and resting after killing Samander, Lindong approached him, who was surprised that he was able to kill that beast. The main character realized that they, like him, were also scared, but a lot of bubbles fell out after killing Samandra, among which was a bubble with the elemental skill of wood and water. While he was collecting bubbles and looking at what he got and realized that before he got elemental attributes, but now he has 6 different types, he was asked if he was a master, and if he killed the beast. The main character answered positively and asked if they had met a very beautiful girl with long hair nearby. After their negative answer, he realized that it seemed that she really wasn't here, and he was just worrying in vain, and judging by her character, she would not overestimate her strength. He further told the warriors that it seemed that the earthquake was caused by these 2 animals, and since everything was in order now, he would go. Lindong asked him to wait and said that the body of the volcanic salamander he killed had a lot of resources in it. It may even contain a star core, which, according to the rules of the masters, belongs to him. The main character asked if the star beasts he killed during the exam also counted. Lindong replied that if he had not helped, they would have been in big trouble, so this beast belonged to him. The main character said that since everything turned out this way, in this case he kindly accepts this beast. He approached the dead beast and took out from it the star core that Lin Duo had spoken about before. Seeing this, they approached him and said that he was very lucky, because stellar cores are not often found. Lin Duo said that they had killed such beasts before, but they did not see the cannonballs in them. At that moment, the chief overseer came to them with a team of wards and said that apparently they had already sorted out everything here. The main character at that moment felt a frightening energy emanating from him, and if he had not practiced martial arts, he would never have seen a person of such a high rank. Next, he turned to the main character and said that he watched him during the exam and saw that it was very good. The main character said that he flatters him. The chief overseer told them that since they stopped the volcanic eruption in a timely manner, killing 2 star beasts, he would put this on their record. The chief overseer then asked Li Quan if she had killed this star beast herself. She replied that this was not entirely true, because they all dealt with the beast together, which then fell into the lava. And this star beast was defeated by the main character. He asked if she had made a mistake and if this guy had really killed the star beast single-handedly. Looking at him, the chief warden's subordinates began to think that this guy was probably a master. Otherwise, he would not have been able to kill this beast, and if so, then he has a brilliant future. The head overseer further said that if this is the case, Li Quan is fully responsible for everything that was said. At this moment, Li Quan asked the chief overseer and the authorities to look at the wounds of that beast, which showed remnants of a natural force that was different from theirs. The chief overseer came over and confirmed that it was known that there was only one type of power, but in fact there was also the power of the ice element. The main character wondered what was wrong with the element of ice, and whether it was rare. The head overseer went on to say that this was very good, and that he did not expect that there were people with hybrid power attributes in this group of students. He further said that this year Donghai will be on top, and no one will dare to underestimate them. Next, the main character was offered to come to the 100 Training Martial Arts Hall, where he could choose the conditions himself, or to the Thunder Martial Arts Hall, where the conditions were better. Chin recalled that the main character is already training at the Polar Star Martial Arts Hall. The chief warden said that they were adults, but they behaved like children. After that, he suggested leaving the cave. After leaving, he met Lin Huhan, who had already arrived at the right place, who told him that she was fine, but his clothes were spoiled. He asked her if she had lost anything during the exam. She replied that if she had lost, she had not yet discovered it. He told her that she had lost her admission to the exam, which he found and now decided to return it to her. She took it and thanked him, and also asked where he found it. Instead of answering, he asked why she went to the volcano, knowing that it was dangerous there. She replied that she simply tracked down the 5 super beasts and then hid on the mountain. There were no animals there, and the place was very safe. Next, she asked him why he was looking at her like that, and whether he didn't believe that she could kill them. She also said that through 3 years of simulating the 5-year exam and practice, she was able to poison 5 super beasts with herbs. After that, he told her that an ordinary person is not capable of this, and if so, then she is worthy of the title of headman, and added that now he will call her Lin Uma Chamber. Young Jian asked the main character if it was true that even though such an accident happened this year, despite this, the results would still be counted. The main character replied that their evaluation ended shortly before all this. So this situation definitely did not affect the exam results. But don't forget what the main idea of the martial arts exam is. At this moment, his friends remembered that no matter what incident happened during the exam, the results would not be cancelled. The main character said that this is true, and in his opinion, those who did not manage to kill 5 super beasts before all this received an additional opportunity during the eruption. Yang Jian confirmed this and said that during the incident he tried to kill the 5th super beast, but ended up letting it escape. He also saved Nandadat and was praised by the owner of the 100 Training Martial Arts Hall. At that moment, it was announced to all the students that they all needed to gather in the square. After everyone had gathered, Donghai's chief supervisor said that he would now clarify everything about what happened in the martial arts exam. One asked if the chief warden himself had really come to the site to watch them pass the exam. Another asked how the assessment would be calculated, given that many had not met the quota. He was also informed that many students had died during the earthquake. The chief warden replied that the accident was their fault, and therefore the families of the deceased candidates would receive compensation. However, there is something they definitely need to remember. And he further said that the path of the master is much harder and more dangerous than what they faced in the exam, and that one should not look only at fighting abilities and strength, because the world of warriors is very cruel and bloody. Those who prove themselves during the invasion of super beasts will receive additional points, and after that the chief warden announced the official end of the exam and asked to prepare to return. Yan Peng was congratulated by everyone and considered cool, because he killed 30 super beasts, 3 of which were high level, and 4 of which were medium level. Young Jian told the main character that he had also heard about his successes, and they were also not bad. He also said that in truth, he had killed so many super beasts that this number was clearly greater than that of Yan Peng. In his opinion, the headman also wants to hear praise addressed to him, but she replied that she didn't want to hear anything like that. The main character said that in fact, there is nothing special about this, because he killed 29 super beasts, 20 of high level and 10 of average. Lin Huhan asked why he was talking and said that they all know that he is strong, but not that strong. The main character replied that he told the truth, but no one believes him. And at that moment he thought that if he told them that he had also killed a star beast, their heads would explode. The others at that moment began to say that he made them laugh by saying that he had killed 29 super beasts with his own hands, and that this was simply ridiculous, because it was even difficult to kill 19 animals, but he was telling them about 29. One of the students said that he had long heard that he was a maximum rank martial artist, so he wanted to compete with him, but apparently his strength was just empty talk. Next, one of the classmates told the main character that they represented their school, so he asked him to behave calmly. Next, he approached the one who was spreading rumors about unreal power and asked forgiveness for making him laugh. Man Rong told Zhou Wu that this was too much. He asked her what she was saying and said that he was just making friendly jokes about their classmate. Zhou Wu asked the main character if he was telling the truth. Man Rong said that they were going overboard because what they were discussing had nothing to do with them. Yang Jian confirmed that they are talking about their own things here, and they should not get involved in this, so as not to run into trouble, because people usually show off in front of those who are stronger than them. Zhou Wu told Lin Huhan that she had misunderstood him. After all, he's just talking about it and certainly doesn't envy the main character. Next, he realized that he had previously thought that Lin Huhan was beautiful, but found no reason to get closer to her. But now is the time for this. Yan Peng further said that he does not have any evil intentions, and as for the main character, he just hopes that he will no longer talk nonsense. He further said that he was studying at the Huaying School and was a top-ranking martial artist, after which he asked Lin Huhan if they would add each other on WeChat to get to know each other better. The main character stood up and asked if he had heard it or if they had gone completely crazy. Yan Peng was amazed by this power and did not understand where the main character got it from. The main character said that as he understood, he wanted to compete with him. Yan Peng didn't understand where the main character got such self-confidence. Considering that he also dared to ask the headman for WeChat, according to the main character, he clearly overestimates his strength. Yan Peng suggested that the main character discuss everything, because they had a misunderstanding, and everything that Zhou Wu said was only said out of a sense of justice. The main character said that the fact is that he doesn't want to talk to them and discuss anything now, because it's much easier to solve everything by force. Yan Peng was seriously afraid that the main character could kill him right now, because he seems to be very strong. Next, the main character saw the one who laughed loudest before, and now he had his tail between his legs and was sitting quietly. He also hit him and said that the problems had been solved, and he invited Lin Huhan to return to their places, because they would be landing soon. After landing and exiting, the main character realized that the boss was right that after returning home, he needed to figure out how to use the starbone. When he arrived home, he didn't find his mother at home and asked Aunt Chen where she was. Chen replied that his mother left home early in the morning. He asked what business forced her to leave at such a time. Chen replied that it seemed like something happened at the company, and she did not tell her about it in detail. He wondered what could have happened and whether his father should have been there. Chen replied that his father had not yet returned from his business trip. He told Aunt Chen that he ran to the company office, and on the way, he realized that something had definitely happened. Running to the company office, he told the receptionist that he was looking for Li Xiumei. They asked him what she was like. The main character wondered whether such brainless hens really exist that don't even know the director's wife. At that moment, someone asked him, calling him Wang Jr., what he was doing here. In response, the main character asked him if he was the head of the security department, Mr. Sun. The main character also asked if he had seen his mother, who was supposed to come here. Sun replied that she was in the conference room because CEO Bao had come from the company opposite and decided to lure Vice President Jia over to him. In a previous life, when the Wang family went bankrupt, Bao Qingzhe came to share his father's company, and he didn't think that in this life, this slippery guy would appear so early. Next, he decided to deal with this Bao Qingzhe and make him answer for everything. Sun asked to wait for him because that man had brought a lot of people with him, and now he would also call a few. The main character and Sun went up to the 8th floor and they met with help. The support people said that although they were simple subordinates, they were full of enthusiasm and were waiting for his further instructions. The main character said that this was wonderful and that in this case they could all go to the conference room together. They approached the door and heard the main character's mother tell Jia Guiren that her husband treated him well, but he took advantage of his departure and conspired with strangers to appropriate shares of the company. Jia told her that she couldn't say that because man tends to rise up, water tends to flow down, and CEO Bao is a very good strategist whom he will follow. Sun told the protagonist that Vice President Jia seemed like a decent person and did not expect such a thing from him, after which they rushed into the conference room. Mom saw her son and asked why he came here. He replied that he had learned that something important had happened, so he needed to find out. Jia Guiren told the main character that this is the business of adults, and he should not get in the way here. The main character saw his cousin, who said that there were things going on in the family that the father was worried about, so he asked her to see if she could help with something. The main character was also told that he still does not respect his elders, and if he has nothing to do, then he better leave, because now they will start a meeting. Bao Qingzhe realized that the main character dared to ignore his words and decided to teach him manners. The main character asked why he had to leave. Bao Qingzhe said that education in the Wang family is no good because they cannot even cope with a child, and in his opinion, the main character is no longer small, and therefore he needs to be disciplined, and he can do this. Go asked him how he dared to command the main character while the director was not here, and added that all he could do was insult his wife and son. Bao Qingzhe told him that he did not think that he would be such a loyal dog. The main character activated the power and asked him who he was to raise him. Bao Qingzhe asked the main character not to dare to be insolent to him, otherwise there will be problems, and at that moment he called Zhu Lei. Zhu Lei then activated his power and went on the attack, saying that he was an arrogant boy and therefore he should get it now. The main character resisted this attack, and the mother watching this was surprised that her son was not injured at all. After repelling the attack, the main character said that someone told him that he could not hide all the time and the moment would come when he would have to reveal his power, otherwise everyone would try to trample him. Taking the weapon out of the case, he added that he had not thought so before, but now this thought seems true to him. Jia Guiren asked Bao Qingzhe if this was really his company's office. Bao Qingzhe replied that it was true that his company was located there and asked why he was asking this. The main character at that moment ran there in order to destroy it. Those who saw this wondered how an ordinary major boy could turn out to be a martial arts master, and whether it was really the untalented son Wang Shengguo. After the building was damaged, the main character told Bao Qingzhe that if he behaved like this again, not only the building, but also he might suffer. He also turned to the employees and said that he didn't care what they were up to. But until his father returned, they should behave decently, and if they suddenly wanted to leave the company when he arrived, he would not interfere with them. One of them realized that it was all over, because Ban Qingzhe could not seize a share of the shares, and the main character was determined. He blamed himself for being a fool. The cousin hugged the main character's mother and said that this was great, because with the main character, their company was not in danger. She further realized that under the protection of such a martial artist, their Wang family would never fall. Next, the main character asked his mother and cousin to leave from here, and Sunya asked him to look after them, to which he agreed. After leaving the conference room, the main character asked his mother what was wrong with his father. Mom replied that he went to the neighboring province to discuss business, but at that time the other party decided to play a dirty game, and with the help of local bandits, they were holding his father and would not let him go until he signed the contract. The cousin said that grandfather had already sent a person there to negotiate, but so far there was no result. The main character asked what kind of project this is, in which the father does not want to participate, adding that there is nothing more important than life. Mom replied that this project was very problematic and his father was in very serious trouble. The main character realized that he had to go and find out everything, because it was quite possible that these people had harmed the Wang family in a past life. The main character said after thinking that he himself would go to the neighboring province and asked her to stay at home. Mom asked if he was sure he would be okay. He asked her not to worry, because she had already seen what he was capable of, and at that moment he was using less than 10% of his power. The cousin asked to go with him because in her opinion, they should contact the person who was sent there by grandfather. They ended up driving together and arriving at the right place. The cousin said that the negotiations were taking place at their club and that she first planned to meet with her grandfather's man to sort out the situation. At the meeting, this man, delighted, said that she had finally arrived and said that the negotiations had not worked out, no matter what conditions they offered. The other side does not agree to let him go. They clearly have other intentions. She asked what they wanted. He replied that they want to take over several gray enterprises because this is important for gaining influence in Jiang City. He also said that there is an Iron Fist society there, and this is a gang consisting of more than 100 fighters. Having heard about gray enterprises, the main character realized that it turns out that even if you harm a person, no one will care. Next, the main character got out of the car and asked to wait for him here while he went inside. Grandfather's man asked the protagonist's cousin if he really wanted to break in there alone. She suggested that he just watch it. The main character approached the door and knocked. They asked him through the window who he was. He replied that he was from delivery. He was asked not to make a fool of himself because they didn't need to deliver anything so late, and they asked him to say directly what he was doing here. He replied that it was for their boss and it was very personal. He was again asked not to talk nonsense because their boss cannot order anything in the middle of the night. The main character said that he warned and then added that their boss ordered Viagra. They opened the door for him and asked him to come in quickly because it was best to talk inside. The guard said already inside that he would take him to the boss and asked him not to tell him about what just happened. He asked him not to worry and promised not to say anything. Xiao Wu walked to the door where the boss was and said that something had been delivered to him. The boss asked if it was Xiao Wu who was guarding the entrance and what exactly was delivered to him. Xiao Wu replied that this was his urgent order. At that moment, the main character, realizing that the boss would not open it so easily, blew up the door and burst inside. He took his weapon from the case and began to fight with everyone present. They noticed that he was strong and asked who sent him here. Xiao Wu's boss said that he was stupid. He was letting everyone in here and he promised to deal with him later. More bandits came running asking who dared to break into the club of the Iron Fist gang. The protagonist told the boss that he didn't think he would be a maximum level martial arts student. The boss said that if someone wants to be in his place, then they need to be strong. He also told the main character that he has great strength at such a young age and could very well have a bright future, but today he will die. The main character asked if all these people were his. The boss answered positively and added that these guys were enough to cut him into pieces and he ordered them to kill him. Having tried to kill him, they already began to ask the question why this monster, who is a martial arts master, came to them, because they would not be able to deal with him, and after that, they decided to run away. In their opinion, running away is the best tactic, and the rest can be dealt with later. The main character saw and understood this and decided not to let them do it. During the fight, the main character asked the boss who told him to grab Vash Shengo. The boss replied that he only knew that they were from Xiadu, and their leader was also a martial arts master, and he could not refuse, and he had to attack Wang Shengguo. The boss also added that he had no choice, and therefore he was asking for mercy. The main character asked the boss to have mercy, because he does not want to kill him, but his heart tells him the opposite. He eventually killed the boss with the thought that one cannot be merciful with enemies. The main character decided that for the well-being of his family, he would send anyone to hell, and he ran after the others. At this time, the father was sitting somewhere tied up and thinking that he didn't even know what was happening to his family and didn't understand why they kidnapped him, because he had no enmity with these people. He even wondered if their target was the entire family, not just him. At that moment, the main character came in and said that his mother was waiting for him at home to have dinner together. He untied his father, and his father asked him how he ended up here. The main character replied that if he had not come, it is unknown how much longer he would have been kept here. After that, the father got up and they went to the exit because Mom was already waiting for them. The main character said that he is not even 50 yet, but he already has problems with his legs. The father replied that this was all due to the fact that his legs were simply numb from the fact that he had been tied up for a long time, but in general, he was in good health and could even walk 10 floors in one breath. Further, the father continued to ask how he got to him, and whether he fulfilled their demands and whether they gave him documents to sign, because if he signed, the Wang family would be doomed. The main character asked him to calm down, because he is not stupid. He also said that he clearly explained everything to the gang. They realized their mistakes and let him go. The father asked how he could decide something if he was still very young. The main character asked why he should deceive him, because if he had not persuaded them, they would not have let him go. At that moment, he thought that it was good that he had time to cover his tracks, because he would not want his father to find out about that bloody massacre. The next day, the cousin said that since everything was resolved, she would go and tell everything to grandfather so that he would not worry. Her father said that he would not detain her, but after all this, she needed a good rest. She suggested to the main character to come to them when there is time. After all, they are brother and sister, and they should spend more time together. He agreed with her, and she left. The main character also went home first, and the father wondered why Wang Yanan couldn't stand his son before, but now everything has changed so much. Chen told the main character's mother that she had not slept a wink all night, and she needed to rest, because such a regime was harmful to health. She replied that nothing could be done about it because she couldn't sleep. Chen further said that the head of the family and her son had returned. She looked and was glad to see them return. Her father approached her and asked for forgiveness for making her worry. The main character realized that he would be fed dog food again and told his mom and dad that they were like lovebirds and that it made him sick. The mother told the father that their son was already a martial artist. He didn't believe it. She said that if he didn't believe it, she could find out from him herself. After that, he asked the main character if his mother was telling the truth. He activated his abilities and offered to take a look. The father asked how this was possible, since he had not been practicing martial arts for so long, but had already become a master with great strength. The main character said that he met one grandfather who said that he had strange abilities, and then gave him magical abilities and asked if they believed in it. Mom said that he was talking some nonsense again. The main character said that then there is only one explanation, which is that he is very talented. The father said that he had innate talent, and he no longer even believed that he was his son. Mom asked her father in what sense he said this, and who then carried him and gave birth to him, if not she, because it was actually her merit. After hearing the story that Bao Qingze dared to attack his son, he decided that he needed to settle scores with him and Jia Guiran too. Mom asked him not to fuss so much because his son had already dealt with them. In addition, this incident showed which of the company's employees are truly loyal. The father said that this is true because you can take advantage of this situation, restore order in the company, fire incompetent people, and hire fresh staff. The father asked the main character if the results of his exam had arrived. The main character replied that they should come today. They approached the computer, and he asked them not to rush so much. The father asked to chat less and enter the exam pass number so that they could see the results as quickly as possible. They saw the results, and the father asked if these were his results, and if they had entered the pass number correctly. The main character told his father that he speaks like that as if he is not his child, and he just passed the exams well, he doesn't believe in him at all. His father asked him not to blame them for being so surprised that he was so good. At this moment, the main character asked to wait for them, because someone was calling him. He answered the call and asked Lin Huhan if she had received the results. She replied that she took the martial arts practical exam and scored 80 points. He further asked how her performance was in other subjects, thinking that she had never been so excited. She said that language and literature, 138 mathematics, 143 English, 146 professional martial arts course, 148, and then asked how he felt about this result. He asked if she had really sold her soul to the devil. She further asked him how many marks he passed, since he most likely scored high in the practical exam. He replied that he received the highest score, plus another 20 points, and added that it is impossible to hide genius. She then ended the conversation. His parents asked if he was talking to his classmate just now. He replied that she was his neighbor at his desk, and they had a good relationship. He asked them not to think of anything unnecessary. They said that they understood everything, and a good relationship is not bad. They also said that when they have free time, he can bring her to their home. At that moment, Chen told her mom and dad that Principal Yu and Teacher Fan had come to see them. The father asked them what destinies led them to come to them. One of them told them that they now have a martial arts champion in their high school, and they came here today to congratulate them. Mom asked if their son was already considered a martial arts champion. One of them said that if they had questions about going to college, they could ask them. And besides, Director Yun reminded about the previously mentioned awards, and said that everything they brought was now his. He also said that he heard that he uses ice element when he fights, so he asked to find an ice element source stone that he can use and improve his skills. He also said that this bottle also contained a miracle ice element pill that could be used to increase strength. And about the stone, he said that this stone of dark cold is a rare natural treasure, and he got it by accident, and said that he could make a weapon with an ice stream out of it, and that this stone would be very useful to him. The main character realized that although the rewards were very good, it was a pity that the stone was so small. The director said that they gave away the awards, so now they will probably leave. The main character thanked those leaving for everything and wished them a happy journey. Someone called the main character and he wondered what was wrong again, because he usually doesn't have so many people. It turns out that at that moment the owner of the hall, Fu, came to him and invited him to look at their conditions. The main character suggested talking about this in the house, and they eventually went into the house. In the house, the main character asked if they really didn't consider it a problem to combine admission to an educational institution and a martial arts hall. They replied that he understood everything correctly. After negotiations, the Polar Star Martial Arts Gym still won. Others decided to see what kind of contract this was that the main character agreed to. When they saw the rank 555 contract, they told Chin that he would go broke like that. One of them understood that fighters who signed such a contract immediately moved to the general level. Another said that they would not cope with such conditions, and they were sorry that they were missing out on such a talented guy. Chin handed the bracelet to the main character and asked him to put it on, because then he would be able to go into the internal network of the Polar Star and buy all the necessary resources, also mentioning that 1 billion was given in installments. He also told him that he could buy an apartment in the area of their martial arts hall, because it was safe and no one would give him problems. The main character really liked this proposal. The main character asked the owner of the hall if they had any suggestions about entering the institute. The owner replied that all institutes are similar to each other. The rules at the military academy are stricter, but there are some things that are better than others. He further said that the military academy is the fastest way to gaining power. In addition, if he shows himself worthy, he will be awarded military honors, and in the future he will be able to single-handedly command an army, even in another country. In addition, according to him, they are now creating a huge army and they need fresh forces. Having heard about another country, the main character decided that he should think it over carefully. The owner also said that after registering for the exam, there will be a month left before the start of his studies, and he can select a group for him to train in the martial arts hall, which he will join for now, and then go to another country. Meanwhile, some boss was saying that the Iron Fist gang had been defeated and its surviving members had fled. The subordinate added that he had personally seen it, as several people were killed with one blow, and several top-level martial arts students were no exception. The boss disappeared without a trace, and in its place there is a black mark. Realizing that the killer controlled the fire element, he ordered them all to be returned, because he was tired of trusting other people to clean up this mess. The subordinate asked if he really decided to deal with this incident. The boss said that he ordered them all back without asking personal questions. The main character came a little later to the Polar Star Martial Arts Hall and saw an announcement at the entrance that the hall was welcoming the champion of the Donghai Martial Arts exam. While he was reading this announcement, one of the passers-by saw him and said that this was the same champion. Someone else said that it was definitely him and that he did not think that such a master was hiding in their hall. The main character was very embarrassed to hear this. Someone else said that they should try twice as hard to achieve the same results. At this moment, the main character liked all this, since he would be able to take their bubbles. Further, judging by the data of the system, he realized that after someone gains more than 100 intelligence points, he rises to the perfect level, and the understanding of training methods is greatly enhanced. Morale was also about to go over 100 points, and he knew he needed that to happen as soon as possible. At that moment, he heard some girl asking to let her through, saying that she was looking for the main character, and to tell the truth, she said that she knew him. The main character didn't quite understand who it was. The guard asked if she really knew him, because over these few days many people had come here who supposedly knew him, but for some reason he had to believe her. It seemed to the security guard that this girl was up to something, and so he decided not to let her in. The main character recognized Chusia and approached her. The guard asked for forgiveness because he did not know that they really knew each other. The main character replied that it was okay and invited her to go with him. On the way, he asked her how she got here. She replied that lately she felt that everything was depressing her and the atmosphere around was very heavy, so she was looking for him. He asked how she was feeling now. She responded in surprise that she felt very comfortable now. And she became comfortable for the reason that he took away part of the poison of the devilish lotus and the poisonous great power. After that, he asked her if her sister knew that she had come running here. She replied that she didn't know. After that, he gave her a phone number and asked her to talk to her sister first, otherwise she and her mother would worry. Having reached her, Lin Huhan began screaming, asking if she understood that she and her mother were worried about her and asked her to quickly return home. Chuxia said that she only left the house once and did not want to return so early. Huhan asked if she didn't understand that she had health problems. The main character told her that since she didn't want to return home early, then let her stay with him and asked her not to worry about her. After the call, he told Chusa that they had sorted it out. After which he suggested that we first go to his house and eat, and in the evening he offered to take her to an interesting place. On the way, she asked what kind of things he was carrying. He replied that he had an acquaintance here who liked to drink strong alcohol, to which he added something. While he went to visit an acquaintance, Chuxia wondered if this was the outside world. This friend asked who they were. He replied that since he did not recognize him, then he offered to see what he had brought with him, mentioning that it was his charm. After this, the main character asked if he wanted this. He replied that he really wanted it and asked to give it all to him as quickly as possible. Seeing how he took the bag and started drinking, the main character realized that this guy was quite clever. Chuxia asked if it was some kind of master. He replied that you could say so. This guy asked why they were whispering there and asked, without waiting for an answer, to come up to him so that he could give them something. He gave something to Chusa and said that there were things inside that she needed. The main character saw a familiar flash drive and wondered if he was buying them in bulk. He gave the main character a map and said that if he wants to find his treasure, then he must follow this map, because on the spot he will find everything that he left there. After that, he turned around and said that he had given them gifts and asked them to leave here and not interfere with his rest. Chuxia asked what kind of person he was, what these things were, and the map he had drawn. The main character asked not to pay much attention to this. She said that this map looked like a real one. He decided to take a closer look after that and saw that she had turned over this card. Then they left the mental hospital and he asked her not to tell her sister about their business today, promising to first examine this map and then they would talk to her about it. After this, they met Lin Huhan, who according to the main character looks very exciting today. Approaching Chusa, she asked her why she had gone so far from home, making her and her mother worry. The main character said that he didn't see anything wrong with her leaving the house, because he was also taking a walk. Huhan said that they were out very late, and something might have happened to her. The main character said that she needs to go for a walk more often, because she can't sit at home all the time. Besides, nothing could happen to her around him. She said that that's why she was the only one who wasn't so worried, because if it weren't for him, it would have been different, and after that, she decided to leave. Chuxia decided that she couldn't let them break up like that and asked her to stop being too serious, because she would scare him away. Huhan replied that she didn't care whether she scared him away or not, and asked him to avoid asking where she was today. Arriving home and looking at the system, he saw that his morale had also reached a perfect level and wondered how to use it, because it was probably possible to control objects from a distance. He decided to try something easy first and managed to lift water from a glass. After that, he wondered whether this depended on the perfection of the spirit, because although he does not see this power, he can control it. He didn't understand whether it was the power of thought or the power of morale, because in the end, it didn't matter what it was as long as it could become an attack technique. Having successfully attacked the wall, the main character realized that it was just a stream of water, and if you use it to compress great force, it will be powerful and it's not that difficult. And he decided to try it on a dark night. After trying this, he realized that the sword could move through the air and wondered if he could control the sword. Having tried to return the sent sword, he saw and realized that it was true that it could fly to him, and wondered whether this could be considered controlling the sword in the air. The next day, he realized that last night he had spent all his morale and now his head was simply spinning. A teacher approached him and said that the admissions officers at several major universities wanted to speak with him personally and that he would take him to them. On the way, the teacher said that it was unexpected that there was a martial arts champion in his class, because he had never even thought about it before. After bringing the main character to the spot, he introduced the main character, this year's martial arts champion. The main character told them that he was very honored that they came here in person. One of them approached him very quickly, startling him, and said that he was a teacher from the admissions office of the Huanghai Military University, but he could call him Teacher Chin. Xiadu Zhou from the military university also came up. The director said that all 5 universities were ready to fight for him, and in his opinion, he was lucky. The main character realized that these were the 5 best universities in China, and that all these teachers from the admissions office had come for him. One of them said that he must have heard the name of their first university, and added that there he would be able to take advantage of their best resources and connections, because the rector said that he would like to see him at their university. Another said that their Jinlin University is almost the same as the first university. Their rector has level 11 star general, and everything that they promise at the first university, they can do. The third said that the resources of their Donghai University are much more extensive than those of other universities, and their rector is also level 11 star general, and if it were not for an urgent matter, he would personally come here. Hearing immediately about the 3 level 11 master races of the star general, he felt a growing tension. The fourth said that the military academy is the only place where he can fully realize himself, because there he only needs to study well, and then he will be able to receive a military rank and go to another country to fight. In addition, he said that the authorities decided that immediately after joining their Huanghai Military Academy, he would receive the rank of sergeant. The woman from the first university told him that they had neither shame nor conscience, since they decided to attract the main character with a military rank. Xiadu Zhou said that they also have military ranks, and in addition, Xiadu Military Academy has a number of other privileges. The fifth said that General Lei Yao is an outstanding student at their university, and is now commanding the Red Tiger Army in another country, and added that if he shows himself well, a worthy place will be guaranteed. The fourth said that in their Huanghai Academy there are many students who, after graduation, joined the Black Sparrow Army, and there are still many opportunities that suit the main character. The fifth asked the fourth whether it was possible that there would be room for the main character in the Black Sparrow's army, after which he accused him of pulling the wool over his ears. The main character turned to teachers Qin and Zhou and said that he had heard that the freedom of students was severely limited at the military academy, and then asked if this was true. Qin replied that the rules in the military academy are stricter than in an ordinary educational institution, but they are needed in order to weed out the weak. Zhou said that he was strong enough to break these rules. After he decided everything, he left them, telling them about his decision. A little later, Lin Huhan approached him and asked which university he wanted to go to. He told her that he wanted to enter the Huanghai Military Academy. She said she thought about him going to First University. He asked her after that where she wanted to go. She replied that she wanted to go to Donghai University, but she hadn't fully decided yet, so she was going to apply to Donghai Institute of Technology as her second choice. He asked if she would regret it after all. It was initially based on her success, and then she passed the exam and could easily enter Donghai University. She replied that there was nothing to regret because he already knew what situation her family was in now. He said that everything was clear to him now, and added that in any case they would study in the city of Donghai. Then she asked him to take her home. He agreed, and they went. He took her to the bridge, and there she decided to part. He began to leave, and she also told him that if she entered Donghai University, she would wait for him to see him. After 3 days, she called him and informed him that she had entered Donghai University to major in martial arts. He answered her that he did not expect anything else, and at that moment wondered whether all the elders were so hard-working. After the call ended, he decided that he also needed to improve, because he had to become stronger. After that, he came to the martial arts hall, and the owner praised him for coming quickly, and then introduced him to the Fighting Tigers squad and told him that he personally selected this team. He also said that all these people are level 3-star generals, so if he goes with them to another country, then everything will be safe. Lin Zhanyu said that he was the one he was talking about, and that he was the champion of the Donghai martial arts exam, and that he would go with them. They shook hands, and the main character had a question why he had such a strong handshake. Further, the main character said that he hoped for their care and thought that it was normal if he wanted to test him, because for him he was considered some guy who came without an invitation. Others said that martial arts champion was a truly worthy title and added that they would also introduce themselves now. Yang Fei, master of the earth element, introduced himself first. The second one introduced herself was Yan Jinming, a master of the element of fire. The third after them was Yan Jinyue, saying that she mastered the element of wood. Liu Yan also attracted attention, saying that she was also a master of the element of fire. She also said that he would walk with her and that she would cover for him and make him happy. At that moment, the commander asked her not to tease the guy, to which she agreed in the end. The main character was asked to get ready, and he said that he was already ready and thought that he would finally go to another country and even to another world. But replacing the weapon this time was a bit expensive, and he spent all the money allocated to him by the Polar Star Hall. He realized that the masters really spend all their money quickly, and Master Lu's equipment is definitely not cheap. He didn't understand how Master Lu made weapons from star beast bones and black stones. If he could make this loosen, an ancient weapon in the form of a chain with iron weights on one or two ends, then he could control it in the air, and that would be very cool. Going outside, he asked for forgiveness for the wait. They told him that there was nothing to worry about, and since everyone was assembled, they would leave soon. They arrived at some place, and when they saw the portal, the main character was very surprised. Linjan told him that he would be even more surprised when he entered another world. Liu Yan asked the main character where he looks at the time when he needs to go. Having flown through the portal, the main character realized that they had finally arrived at the right place. Lin Zhan told Liu Yan that almost everyone experiences discomfort when they pass through a spatial rift, but nothing can be done about it. She told him that she still remembers how he vomited, and it seems that this guy is not like that. The main character saw a lot of bubbles around him, and he wondered if they had really fallen out of the rift. When picking one up, the system congratulated him on receiving an empty bubble. The main character had a question: is this bubble really empty? He further noticed that now his morale was pumped up, and he didn't have to bend down to collect them, otherwise before he looked like he was planting potatoes. It also seemed to him that the other world was friendly to him. Seeing the building, he asked if they wanted to say that they had just come from there. He was told that this is a well-known tower of great power, located in the center of the city, and that all the local people draw energy from it. The main character realized that she looked original. Seeing the strange girl further, he asked what was wrong with her. He was told that this was a hair girl who belonged to the beast people. They also told him that he was somewhat similar to her. The main character replied that this was not true. It became very interesting for the main character to be here, because there are so many different people here, among whom there are not only beast people, but also dwarfs, giants, and sea people. Liu An told the main character that when they arrive at the local branch of the North Star, then she can show him some techniques. The main character asked if planet Earth and the other world live in peace and harmony, then why can they calmly come to them, but they cannot come to them? Liu Yan replied that the people here cannot pass through the spatial rift. She also said that there was once a strong fighter who wanted to go through the rift, but he was seriously wounded and almost lost his life because of the rift. Arriving at one of the places, Lin Zhan told the main character that this was the branch of the Polar Star in another world, where you can take tasks and train, and also sell battle trophies. Lin Zhan introduced the champion of this year's Donghai martial arts exam to everyone present, and said that the owner of the hall personally asked to take him to their team. Next, they came to Haishu and asked Lin Zhan to show the main character the heritage stone. Touching the stone, the main character asked if this was the language of another world, which he had already learned. Lin Zhan said after that they would wait until he rested, and then they would go out of town to hunt. After resting, they arrived at the place, and Lin Zhan said that the dark, misty forest in front of them was the goal of their journey, where there could be many star beasts, so they need to be careful. At some point they stopped when they discovered windwolf excrement. The shape, color, and smell look fresh, and it has clearly been here recently. Lin Zhan told everyone that windwolves travel in packs, and if they meet them, they will be in trouble. Liu Yan said that there are 8 windwolves living here who hunt together. Yang Fei said that wind-type star beasts, such as windwolves, are very fast and can work together, and since the protagonist arrived in another world for the first time, they should not take such risks. Lin Zhan noticed that something had happened and asked if everything was okay. Yanjin replied that he just met a snake and the star beasts were not yet visible. Then Lin Zhan noticed a wolf, and with a blow of his claw at 6 o'clock he killed it. As expected, he was not alone, and the entire remaining pack of windwolves was about to attack them. Lin Zhan asked everyone to prepare to fight them, because it would no longer be possible to run away or remain unnoticed. Having dealt with all of them, Liu Yan said that defeating them was a piece of cake. But at that very moment she realized that she had forgotten about the new guy and asked him if he was okay. The main character, meanwhile, was finishing off one of the wolves and realized that these star beasts had no protection, and that's why he was lucky, because he had just almost died. Seeing this, Liu Yan told the protagonist that he had well-developed strength and fighting skills. He replied that there was nothing special about it. Lin Zhan said that the champion of the martial arts exam cannot be a weakling, so there really is nothing to be surprised about. He further said that they need to act quickly, otherwise other star beasts will soon come to the smell of blood. The main character, meanwhile, was happy about this rich harvest, because these wolves fell a lot of great power with the element of wind, and also an increase in teamwork skills. But unfortunately, there is no great golden power here. The main character has long been jealous of Lin Zhan's great power with the element of gold, but it seems that he did not use it to kill the wolves. Next, the system congratulated him on receiving the combat skill Wind Walk, and the question arose whether windwolves could also drop combat skills and whether this was some kind of technique. Liu Yan said that unfortunately, none of these wolves had a star core, and that only their fur and fangs could be sold, because this also cost money. Lin Zhan announced to everyone that he had decided to rest tonight and go to Wind Valley tomorrow morning. Liu Yan asked if this was to track down the unicorn they saw last time, and if it was too early. Lin Zhan replied that before going there, he wanted to test the main character for a couple of days, but now he has seen what he is capable of, so there is no need to do this. Liu Yan reminded that the unicorn is one of the 3 main star beasts, and it is very cunning, and even if they attack all together, they will not be able to kill him, and one little carelessness can destroy them all. Yanjin remembered that he had not told the protagonist anything about the dark misty forest, and asked if he had any questions about it. Without waiting for questions, he decided to tell him that this forest is divided into an outer, middle, and inner ring, and that there is also a mysterious zone and a forbidden zone in the very center. The zone of the outer ring is inhabited by star beasts of levels 1, 3, the zone of the middle ring is inhabited by star beasts of levels 4, 6, and the zone of the inner ring is inhabited by star beasts of levels 7, 9. The mysterious zone is a very harsh area where Lord-level star beasts live. Each of them is equal in strength to a martial artist. As for the forbidden zone, not a single person has ever returned from there alive. Lin Zhan said that they were now in the outer ring area and that they saw a unicorn 3 days ago, but they ran out of supplies and returned to replenish them. He also added that this unicorn is very rare, so most likely it has a starbone, and if they can track him down, they'll make a lot of money. He further asked the main character what he thought of this. The main character replied that he would really like to see a unicorn, but he is unlikely to be able to help them cope with such a star beast, only if he covers them. Lin Zhan said that in that case, tomorrow morning they would go to the Valley of the Winds, which made everyone very happy. The next day on the way, they met an earthen boar, which is a first-level star beast, and Lin Zhan asked the protagonist to go and deal with it himself. While he went to deal with him, Yan Jinyue asked if the main character could really defeat this boar. Lin Zhan replied that this should not be a problem for him, and offered to bet on how long he would fight him. Liu Yan asked what they would argue about. Lin Zhan offered 10 yuan stones. Liu Yan agreed and said that in her opinion he would kill the boar in 5 minutes. Yan Qingwei said that she knows that the main character is very fast, but she doesn't know how strong he is or how he can break through defenses, so she bets for 10 minutes. Yang Fei set it to 12 minutes, and Yan Jin said that he also wants to, and added that it seems to him that he can do it in 9 minutes. Lin Zhan said that he bet that he could do it in less than a minute, so he asked him to prepare his pebbles. The main character asked if he understood correctly that they bet on him, and he also said that if this is so, then they are bad comrades. Then it seemed to him that this scaly armor was similar to steel, and it seemed almost impossible to penetrate it. He also realized that this beast has one method of attack and the only feature is its thick skin. At that moment he finally understood how to defeat him, and he succeeded in the end. Lin Zhan said that less than a minute had passed, just as he said, and then asked everyone who was betting for yuan stones. Liu Yan said that it was not fair because the main character used a mean trick. They approached the main character and said that he won not with the help of great power, but with the help of something else, and they were wondering what kind of technique this was. The main character replied that he is only a level 1 star master, and the amount of great power he has is limited, so he saves it. He also added that, in his opinion, this technique is very convenient and promised to use it often in the future. He called this technique 1,000 years of pain. Liu Yan said that he shouldn't use it in front of them. Lin Zhan asked the protagonist to take the tusks and scale armor of the boar, and then said that they would go from here. Yang Fei told the commander that he seemed to have found the star core. Lin Zhan came up, looked and told everyone that this was indeed a star core, and he told the main character that he was a very lucky guy. He suggested that he take it and not show it to anyone, and now they are going to the Valley of the Wind. The main character agreed, and off they went. Along the way, the main character thought about the fact that he had so far killed only 3 star beasts and obtained 2 star cores, and judging by this, fate was favoring him. At some point, they discovered human traces, and the question arose whether they were going there in vain, and whether they still needed to go to this valley. Yang Fei said that if they meet their opponents there, the battle will be fierce, and besides, they don't know how strong they are. Lin Zhan calmed them all down and suggested they go, because they still needed to see what was there. He also said that their tiger squad had no one to fear. He also asked everyone to prepare for battle, because the last time he saw the unicorn, he was far ahead, and he does not know if he is still there now. At some point, Liu Yan saw and realized that she was being attacked and wondered if she would have time to dodge. After the attack, Liu Yan asked the main character if everything was okay. He replied that if it weren't for the combat suit and power shield, he would not have gotten off so easily. After that, she thanked him, and he told her that now was not the time for thanks. Next, the main character asked if this was the same unicorn they were talking about. He was answered positively to his question. The main character looked at the rabbit and realized that apparently in this world, everyone who has one horn is considered a unicorn. Liu Yan said that she didn't expect that they would all be attacked by him. Yan Jinyue said that he was wounded and suggested that they look at his left side, because it seemed to her that he was bleeding there. Lin Zhan said that apparently the people who came before them did this, and because of the injury, he became aggressive. After this, he proposed to quickly attack and kill him while he was weakened. They fought him as best they could for a long time, but the unicorn turned out to be not so easy to kill. At some point, the unicorn tried to escape and they noticed it. Further, realizing that he would not be able to do this, he decided to kill them all, even at the cost of his own life. At some point, already in a hopeless situation, Lin Zhan decided to use the gold mountain peak technique. The main character asked the commander if everything was okay. The commander replied that more or less, because he was a little wounded. Next, the commander asked what happened to the others. They came out at that moment, and it seemed to him that no one was seriously injured. Next, the commander suggested we go and see if that animal had died. They approached the lying unicorn, and the commander said that it seemed to be dead. Young Feng said that it was difficult. The commander suggested that Ian go and see if there are star bones there, because he trusts him. He agreed to this. The main character said that Ian decided to become a butcher. Liu Yan offered to let him show his talent, because this activity clearly suits him. Yang said that he found the star core and handed it over to the commander. The commander saw it and said that it was great because it was a level 3 star core and could be sold for a lot of money. Seeing also the star bone, Yang told the commander that there really was a star bone here and therefore they could leave. The commander asked me to wait because he also wanted to look at it. The main character asked the commander why he was so excited at the sight of the star bone if they were all from a squad of elite soldiers. The commander asked if he was tired of chatting and said that they had been looking for such a bone for many years, and he looked as if he was not at all happy. Liu Yan asked the main character if he knew how much it was worth. The main character replied that he knew, because for the fact that he passed the martial arts exam perfectly, the heads of the Education Bureau gave him a star bone as a reward. Next, the main character asked the commander how much money they could get if they sold this bone. The commander replied that they would send it to an auction house and could sell the bone for 700, 800 million, or maybe $1 billion. After such an answer, the main character realized that it looked like the head of the Education Bureau was really an important and rich person. At that moment, someone flew up to them and said that they were very brave guys for taking out what belonged to him. The main character said that this guy did nothing when they killed the unicorn, and it turns out that he wants to get the reward for nothing. The commander said that he speaks the common language of the Sinu continent and is most likely a local resident, and it looks like a fight is imminent. The commander asked that guy if this was not too arrogant, and why he himself could not kill this unicorn and does not allow others to do it. That guy replied that in fact that rabbit was his, and he further asked what they wanted to do with him next. Without waiting for an answer, he asked Xiao Hei to kill them. They noticed that a star beast with an air style was approaching them and was about to attack again. The commander asked the main character to shoot his bow faster, otherwise the rest would be screwed. Liu Yan said that he dodged her attacks. The commander, meanwhile, realized that this guy was sure that they would not reach him. That guy told them that if they were even a little smart, they should give him the loot or they would die instantly. The commander asked him if he really wanted to kill them just by using wind blows, and he asked him to still have the courage to go down and fight one-on-one and not hide behind a bird. The guy replied that they would now taste the fire. They noticed the fire cannon and ran for cover. The main character realized at that moment that this gun was very powerful and expensive, and it looked like this bastard was constantly carrying it with him. After the fiery blows, the main character's whole body hurt, but the main thing about this is that he is alive, and he decided to further check what was happening to the commander and the others. At that moment, that guy came down to them and, finding a survivor, told him that it seemed that he took advantage of the moment and slipped away to save his skin. He also said that his teammates were probably dead. He further asked to tell what they pulled out of that unicorn's body and who wore these trophies. He also said that if he said this, he would think about saving his life. The main character asked if he killed them. That guy asked if he wanted revenge, after which he advised him to answer his questions. Otherwise, he would die a miserable death. The main character told him that he talks too much, just like a grumpy old man. Having heard what his main character called a grumpy old man, he told him that he could say goodbye to life. And since he himself wanted this, he will help him die. With the power of thought, the main character attacked him in a way that he did not expect. and during the attack, the main character told him that he was not strong enough to kill him. After killing that guy, he found all the other fighters and realized that he was all unconscious and seriously wounded. It is especially difficult for Yang Fei because his leg was injured in the explosion. Ordinary people can't use a fire cannon, but this guy can, and he wondered who he was. But this is not so important, because the most important thing is that everyone survived. And this spatial ring and its resources would be very useful to him, and it seems quite likely that this guy is really rich. He also found that he had a mid-level attribute with wind elemental techniques. In the intranet of a martial arts hall, such attributes and corresponding martial techniques are worth a huge amount of money. The system congratulated him on obtaining the Wind Spirit Mastery technique and the Spring Wind Claw skill, and he realized that this guy had given him a technique and a combat skill, which he was very happy about. Then he noticed some movements in the commander, and approaching him, he asked him if he felt better. The commander replied that he was still alive, and asked what happened to the others. The main character replied that they were still unconscious, and Yang Fei already had an injured leg. The commander said that it was all his fault, because if he had decided not to engage in battle with him, then this would not have happened. The main character said that even if they gave their trophies to that guy, he still wouldn't let them go. The commander asked how he was able to save them. The main character replied that the guy thought that they were all dead and relaxed, and he killed him with his sudden attack. The commander said that if so, then in this case, they will wait until everyone wakes up and go home. Sometime later, Yang Fei returned to his family and, seeing his daughter's tears, asked why she was crying, because he had already returned and everything was fine. She promised in return that she would spend more time with him in the future. The returning protagonist realized that behind the beautiful picture of the life of a martial artist lies a huge risk, and if he wants to rise to the very top, then he must become much stronger. Then he remembered that he needed to turn the newly obtained materials into weapons. Arriving at Master Lu's shop, he wondered if he had come there at all. He further asked if there was anyone here at all because a few days ago he agreed on the creation of weapons. Master Lu said that he could come in, but he would have to wait a little longer while he hammered the iron. After that, he asked forgiveness for having to wait a long time. He then sat down and introduced himself, saying that his name was Lu Zisheng. The main character said that he has a special name. Lu said that his mentor gave him this name and added that he saw the drawings of the thing he wanted to make and asked if he brought the materials to make it. The main character answered positively. Seeing the spatial ring and something else, Lu wondered who this guy was. He further told the protagonist that these are really good materials, because with these two things he can make a special 6-star Lucen. The main character asked if he really could forge a 6-star weapon. Lu answered positively and added that these two things can be used as the main material, and also asked if he would buy the auxiliary materials himself or if he would need help with this. The main character laid out everything he had and asked what would be useful to him. Lu saw and said that this is the golden ball of the sun and moon. The main character asked if he knew what it was. Lu replied that this is a very peculiar metal, which is considered quite heavy and very rare, from which weapons are forged for strong warriors. The main character asked in surprise why he was considered heavy, because for him it was a comfortable weight. Lu laughed and suggested trying to pour great power into him. And with the infusion of great power, the main character understood what the master was talking about. The master said that purely theoretically, the more force he puts into the ball, the heavier it becomes, and it can constantly become heavier. Next, the master asked if he was selling this ball. The main character replied that he was not for sale. He further said that although he could not sell it to him, he wanted to make a weapon out of it, and he asked the master if he could help him with this. The master answered positively, and added that it is best to reforge it into a heavy weapon such as a battle axe, hammer, or fantianhuaji. The main character asked to make a building brick from it. The master said that this would not work, because it would be considered an insult to the golden ball and a waste of resources. The main character said that in this case, he would find another master who would do it for him. The master said that if so, he would help him with this and asked him to come in 3 days. The main character said goodbye to him and said that they would see each other in 3 days. A little later, while near the auction, he remembered that it was about to begin and hoped that the unicorn starbone could be sold at a good price. Meanwhile, the father told his son that he tried his best to get him an invitation to see the light and added that he would soon meet many strong masters. He also said that the main character is just a brat and that you shouldn't take anything to heart. The son replied that he knew this and that next year he would go to a better university and finish him off. Next, the son reported that he saw the main character not far from them, got angry and shouted that it was as if he had come here on purpose. The father asked not to shout because it was not decent and he needed to be more serious. The father further had questions about how this guy received the invitation and whether his family really tried too. The son asked his father for forgiveness because he saw him and could not restrain himself. Mr. Z asked Mr. Lee if he also decided to participate in the auction. The father told Mr. Z that he took his good-for-nothing son with him to see how such events were done. And he asked Mr. Z if he came to participate in the auction because he liked a certain lot. Z responded positively and added that he wanted to make a new weapon, so he came to buy materials for it. He also asked about Lee's son. The father replied that this year's participation in the exam was interrupted due to the meanness of another student. Mr. Z said that his son is quite talented, and he does not understand why anyone would stop him from taking the exam. Father said that the fact is that this man became the champion of the martial arts exam, and that is funny. He also said that it was the main character who also came to the auction today. And besides, he didn't even say hello when meeting him. But you don't have to be so arrogant when you become a master. Mr. Z said that there are many such beginners who become masters and then walk with their heads up. The father said that he was right and added that such people will sooner or later face someone who is stronger than them and will never guess when their death will come. Next, they decided to go to the auction site. After a while, the main character wondered why Lin Zhan and the others didn't come here, because the auction would start soon. At that moment, a girl called him, and he began to remember that this voice and manner of speech were quite familiar, and a question arose in his mind: was this really the sister of that guy, Xu Jie? He turned around, saw Xu Hui, and asked why she was here. She replied that she asked her brother to find him because he was not responding to messages. The main character said that he had a lot to do lately, so he didn't go into his phone. She said that they had not seen each other for a long time, and during this time he had somehow become callous. She also asked that she would settle scores with him after returning. At that moment, someone approached her and asked if he was her first love. She replied that the main character is just an immature child and an ordinary clingy, so there can be no talk of any love. Shi Jilong told the main character that since he was her friend, he could consider him a friend, and then suggested that he go with them because it would be bad if he bumped into the big guys in the auction room. The main character said that this should not be done because he is waiting for his friends. Shi Jilong began to annoy the main character because he wanted to use him to make a good impression on Xu Hui. Next, his uncle approached him and asked if the people next to him were his classmates. Shi Jilong responded positively and said that they studied together at Zhangnan University, and they also have a martial artist from Donghai who lives outside the campus. He further told the main character that Mr. Z is a 3-star soldier, whom he should greet and bow to as a sign of respect. Mr. Z said that this was unnecessary because there are many people here who can't even hold a candle to him. And he also heard that there was a misunderstanding between the main character and Li Rongchen, because of which he forced him to abandon the exam. Shi Jilong said after that he thought that this guy was just arrogant, but it turns out that he is also heartless. Xiao Hui shouted to him that it was nothing like that, and that the main character was not like that. He asked her not to let that little face fool her and asked where she was so sure that he was not that kind of person. After that, he asked the main character to tell the truth whether he really forced Li Rongchen to give up the exam. The main character replied that since Li Rongchen said so, it means it's true. Mr. Z said that it doesn't matter who said what, because his behavior at such a young age will make itself felt in the future if he becomes a powerful warrior. The main character asked that, even if so, what does it matter to him? He also said that they didn't even know each other, and he appeared out of nowhere and told him a bunch of things that he didn't know about, and also asked what right he had to this. Shi Jilong asked the main character if he had ever heard of respect for elders, because he does it for his own good, and he talks like that. He also asked if he really deserved the title of champion. The main character replied that since he did not believe him, he would not try to convince him. He then asked if he really doubted his skills. Shi Jilong replied that being the topper in the entrance exam, he should develop not only his skills, but also his morality, intellect, and body, but he seems to be doing the wrong thing. Xiao Hui told Xie Jilong that this was enough and that he had gone too far. Xie Jilong asked her if it was too much that the main character had just insulted his uncle. The uncle told him that this is really enough, because if she wants to be friends with the main character, then he is not against it, and since he is on different terms with her, that's why he asks him to stay away from her. The uncle told the main character that he himself chose this path and that the main thing now is not to regret what he said when the time comes. At this moment, Lin Zhan approached and said that if he understood correctly, then he was threatening a member of his personnel. He told the main character that it turns out he had been here all this time, at the buffet table, but he wouldn't be able to hide from them. The main character said that he was late and he was terribly hungry. He couldn't find a place for himself, so he came here. Next, Lin Zhan asked his uncle if this was the same good old Shi Kun, and he also asked him why he was threatening a member of his squad. Zikun asked not to joke with him and asked how a high school graduate could be a member of his squad and if he thought he was afraid of him. He further asked him not to ask for trouble. Lin Zhan told him that he might not believe him, but the main character was personally chosen for their squad by the master of the Jixing School of Martial Arts. Zikun asked what was wrong and said that he just asked him to behave normally so that he would not have problems in the future. Lin Zhan said that he thought that he had spoken a little differently before. The main character confirmed this. Liu Yan told the main character that if this old man hurt him, then he can tell them about it and they will sort everything out. The main character said that no matter how sad it was to say it, it was Li Rongchen who was the only one who gave him trouble during the exam, and since he could not win, he is now going around spreading rumors. After this, Lin Zhan asked the old man how he could come and behave like this without understanding the situation. Realizing the situation, Zikun shouted to Li Rongchen that they had set him up. He said it was a misunderstanding. Zikun further told the commander that he was wrong today. The commander asked if he really thought this was enough. The old man asked what else he wanted from him. The commander replied that he was waiting for an apology and asked to apologize to the main character. He also said that compensation for moral damage or something like that would be very useful. The old man asked what kind of extortion this was at the Bond family auction house and what they would do with him if he refused. The commander replied that now, of course, he could not do anything, but they would get out of here someday. The old man said that he, as always, is uncompromising, and therefore he gives him 30 stones as compensation. The main character said that this was somehow not enough and asked if all soldiers of his level were really so poor. The commander confirmed that this was indeed not enough, so he asked the old man to add another 50 stones. The old man asked if he was sane and how he could demand 50 more stones from him. The commander replied that he would have the opportunity to check whether he was sane if he did not add another 50 stones. The old man said that they still had their whole life ahead of them, after which he began to leave. Shi Zhilong followed him. The commander then told the main character that there was not much time left and they had to go, because Bond's man had prepared something special for them. The main character, when leaving, told Xu Hui that he would go with his comrades. She agreed and said that his comrades were so kind that it was downright envious. She wondered why she had the feeling that he was no longer the same man she once knew. The commander, watching the auction, said that there are a lot of rich people in the world, but for some reason he cannot become like that. The main character confirmed and said that the price for the previous lot made him doubt that they were spending money and not leaves from trees. At that moment, it was announced that the next lot would be of interest to many people, because this thing had just been delivered from another world. And they presented the penultimate lot in the form of the femur of a 3-star unicorn beast, possessing the element of wind. This starbone is a unique item that is a must-buy. The presenter announced the starting price of the lot at 500 million, and she also said that each bet adds at least 10 million. As a result, this starbone for 2 billion went to their precious guest from the 8th box. And during the announcement of the last lot, an earthquake began. Everyone was asked at this point to stand in a rune formation and leave the building. The commander said that the enemies were from the sect of truth, after which he asked them to take up weapons and engage in battle. And they began to actively fight the sectarians of truth, who wanted to destroy all people. Seeing Liu Yan's attacks, one of the cultists realized that this girl was causing a lot of problems, and therefore he needed to deal with her first. Seeing the level 3 Star Master, the main character realized that he was only one level higher than him, but he did not expect such a difference in strength. The sectarian asked him where he had so much courage, considering that he was only a level 2 Star Master. The main character attacked him, trying to overpower him and divert his attention from the other fighters in the squad. The sectarian asked the main character if he really wanted to show his fearlessness, because if this is so, then he should rather go to his death. The main character replied that the wolf, even when dying, would show its fangs, after which he asked if he really thought that he was some kind of weakling. The sectarian asked why he used poison that he could not remove, and then died without waiting for an answer. The main character realized at that moment that the poison of the demonic lotus was indeed very toxic. The girl said that looking at him it was impossible to think that he was a cruel guy. He replied that he was actually kind and usually wouldn't hurt a fly, but he could harm bad people. Liu Yan looked at the cultist and seeing his very dark face, she wondered if it was because of the poison and told the main character that he was a cunning one. He replied that he was fighting seriously, so the poison was used to accurately kill the enemy. She further said that she would go and help the rest of the group and asked him to rest here for now, to which he agreed. The main character realized that now it was really dangerous because the sectarian used medium-level techniques of the water element and his sword skills were at the highest level. Then he realized that it was very cool to feel the tide and decided to first collect all the balls lying on the ground and then go to help the group. After gathering, he came to the detachment and called the commander. The commander said that they would consider that they had dealt with everything, but it was better for them to leave now because it was unknown whether the sectarians had reinforcements. Seeing the killed big man Wu, a level 6-star master, the commander suggested running away quickly, since they were certainly not their opponents. But it was already too late to escape, because reinforcements still came to the overpowered sectarians. During the attack of one of them on Xiaohui, at that moment she realized that her body was not listening to her, and at this rate she would soon die. At that moment, the main character saved her, removing her enemy from her, and she realized that the main character was stronger than the senior students from the university. While he was dealing with the enemy, he asked everyone else to find her. She didn't want to leave him and wanted to kill them all first. He said everything was fine, so she could leave. Then all the other members of the squad approached, and he told them that he knew that they would cover him. Liu Yan offered to deal with them. He told Xiaohui that he would go with the team and they still had things to do, and he wouldn't be able to be with her. She asked him to take care of himself in this case. The commander said that the trading house suffered big losses today, and it's good that they sold the Starbone earlier and already received the money. He also said that the madmen from the Cult of Truth decided to ruin everything. But the remarkable thing is that among them there are level 7 Star Masters, thanks to which they managed to avoid significant losses. Liu Yan's commander promised to transfer the money for the bone later and asked not to spend it all at once, because she had to stop in time. The commander also asked the main character to return home, because he does not need to fight with these psychos. He said that he understood him and ran away. Along the way, he decided to find skill bubbles left over from high-class masters because they are very valuable and rare. He understood that he had deceived the commander, but he also understood that he did not want this. A little later, the police and many other people arrived at the auction site. The main character disguised himself and decided that with such a disguise, no one would recognize him, and in addition, the auction house was closed and it was impossible to enter there. At that moment, they noticed him and asked what department he was from. He asked the same question, which department he was from, and reminded of the rules that you can't ask this to everyone. That guy said that he was mistaken and added that he was just accepted, so he doesn't know all the rules yet. The main character at that moment realized that it looked like it was one of the followers. The main character said that enough talk, because everyone should mind their own business, and asked if it seemed to him that the fact that they were equally disguised would arouse suspicion. This guy said that he is really experienced. He went on to say that he would leave and said that they would meet at an abandoned warehouse in the southern suburbs at 8 p.m. At that moment, it seemed to the main character that he accidentally found out the place and time of the meeting of those sectarians, but he realized that he could not just go there. Next, he decided to try to go around the building from the other side and look for more bubbles with skills. After some time, he found and realized that hard work was starting to pay off, and given that the bubble was large, he assumed that most likely it was left by a very strong master. After absorbing this ball, the system congratulated him for acquiring the initial stage of the highest level sword talent. At this moment, he was overjoyed, because with top-level swordsmanship talent, one can quickly master all sword techniques and combat skills, not to mention 30 sword styles. He realized that he had earned it with sweat and blood, and if he had missed such a bubble, it could have been equated to the loss of a whole fortune, because such skills cannot be bought for money. But as for the followers of the teachings of truth, he will leave a note for the guards, because you need to be a decent citizen and do a good deed. He left a note, and the guards began searching in this place after that. At some point, they found a note, and the main character watched for this to happen. Then they decided whether it was true or not, but first they decided to report the note, because they themselves could not investigate this matter. After this, the main character came to Master Li's shop, and he told him that he had been waiting for him earlier. Next, he informed him that Liu Xin and the brick were already ready, and handed over the suitcase with these weapons to the main character. The main character sat down and opened the suitcase, and the master said that Liu Xin is a top-level 6-star weapon. The ingot, according to him, is a low-level 5-star weapon. The main character, seeing all this, said that he was very pleased, and he also told Master Lu that, in his opinion, he was a top-level professional. The master said that it could not be otherwise, because in Lu's workshop, people are not deceived. Then he left the workshop and decided to go secretly to a meeting of sectarians this evening and try out his new weapon. After some time, someone was already there and told someone that he didn't think that they were holding meetings in such a place, and it was good that they brought a lot of people here for an ambush. Another said that there are many criminals here who have already made a name for themselves, and the one who informed them about this is really a good person. I watched them and kept hearing this conversation, and thought that they would be very surprised if they found out who exactly gave them such a chance. At some point, the main character got tired of waiting and decided to act. After that, he threw something at the gate of the hangar with the criminals. Some of the criminals ran out and decided to look around to find an enemy who might be hiding somewhere. The guards realized that they could no longer hide and decided that it was time to attack the cultists. The main character saw how they began to act and remembered that he had only seen this in a film about policemen and bandits, but now he sees that this also happens in real life. Seeing the sectarians below him, the main character realized that some fish had slipped through the net. Having run to this place, they said that no one was pursuing them anymore and no one cared about them anymore, so they began to decide what to do next. At that moment, the main character decided to attack them, realizing that no one else would do this. After some time, the police found the corpses of those sectarians whom they missed and whom the main character killed. They approached them and one of them asked a question whether a mysterious virtue had really helped them. Another said that this was quite possible, but he chose to hide his identity and not advertise his merits. Meanwhile, the main character sneezed and the question arose about who remembered him. But then he decided that it didn't matter, because the weapon worked well, and tomorrow, accordingly, he would need to go to another world. The next day he went to another world and realized that he was still far from accumulating enough spatial skills. But at that moment, he remembered that people from another world cannot pass through the rift, but people from Earth are always ready to meet enemies. He further noticed that there were a lot of weapons placed outside the gap, and he wondered what they were protecting after all. He came to the local branch of the North Star, and when they saw him, someone asked someone if he was the same newcomer from the Fighting Tiger team who came here all alone. Another told him that the Fighting Tigers had recently lost one of their team members, so they now needed to rest and restore their formation. The first one asked if this fool really decided to look for adventure. The main character, meanwhile, announced his desire to rent a heavy armored car. He was told that it would be difficult for one person to operate such a machine, and since he was alone, they did not want to give it to him. The main character thanked him for the warning and said that he had already thought of everything. He was given a key and informed that if the car was damaged, he would have to pay the full cost of the damage. The main character agreed with this. Along the way, the main character remembered that there was a town in the area where you could meet a variety of martial arts masters, including bandits, so he decided that it was better to wait until nightfall and go into the forest. Having done as he had previously planned, he was already in the forest at night and discovered that someone was watching him. One of the pursuers asked where the boy they saw had run. The other replied that he was too fast and that before he could blink an eye, he was already gone. The subordinate asked the boss what to do next. The boss suggested we split up and look for him. The main character realized that most likely these people noticed him even when he was passing by the city. Next, the boss asked everyone else to disperse in different directions and look for the main character, and if he is found, give a signal. The main character saw a power glow around two of them and realized that this could only show that they were level 1 Star Masters, and he decided to find out why they were looking for him. One of them at some point sat down and wondered where these two had gone, and why they still hadn't found that guy. At that moment, the main character quietly approached him from behind and asked if they were looking for him. He tried to kill him, but the main character killed him first and realized that this guy was the strongest of them. Those who left him were many times weaker than him in his opinion, so he decided to kill them in the same way and disappeared after that. Two subordinates returned to the boss and began asking him what happened to him. And at that moment, the main character killed one of them. Having killed everyone, he realized that this loosened stardom made him an ideal secret killer and decided that now it was time for intensive training. A month later, all of his combat techniques had already been perfected, and his strength skills were also close to ideal. He mastered all the level 3 Star Master techniques so quickly that he is now not afraid of level 4 Star Masters. At that moment, he heard strange sounds, and then saw and realized that someone had collided with a star beast. Having heard the common language of another world, he realized that the team of escaping people was from there. Then he had questions about what was happening and why even he didn't notice anything, and at that moment, after activating his spiritual vision, he saw a black aura of great power. One of these people suggested that it looked like a dark beast, but he did not understand how it got here in the first place. Another said that if they couldn't escape, they would be faced with a dark beast and would have a slim chance of surviving even if they fought with all their might. She also said that it was practically impossible, and therefore they needed someone to stay alive and report it. The main character realized that judging by their conversations, this is something terrible. Besides, the information about it is quite important, and it looks like that black glow is a dark beast. Then he noticed that he was only distracted for a second, and this devilry had already disappeared. One of those people said that we couldn't hesitate any longer, and that we urgently needed to split up and escape from here. Another said that as soon as they separated, they would immediately be destroyed one by one. The main character at that moment had a bad feeling, because he did not see where exactly that mysterious thing had disappeared. This enemy turns out to be sitting a little behind and above the main character on a branch, and as soon as he found him, they began to fight. After he landed, those people asked him who he was. He answered them that now it doesn't matter at all who he is, because first we need to deal with this creature, and then talk about everything. The man told Luo Ya that they couldn't trust this guy, because if he wasn't sent by the Dark Beast, then how did he end up here? She replied that they had no choice, because they really needed to deal with the Dark Beast first. The main character shouted to them that this creature was now right above their heads. They saw him and decided to attack altogether, because it was much easier to deal with him this way than alone. At some point, the main character realized that if he had not blocked his blow, it would have torn his heart. The movements of this creature are too chaotic, and therefore, according to the main character, it is impossible to be distracted, because in this case, he will immediately lose sight of it. The main character was asked if he could see it. He responded positively and said that he runs very fast, and as soon as he sees him, he will immediately warn them about it. At some point, Miao Long, whom they abandoned when they fled, began to call for help. The main character noticed that his body was glowing in the same way as the body of the Dark Beast. Luo Yu went to him and along the way asked if he was still holding on, where he was injured, and if he could go. Coming closer to him, she asked him not to worry, because now she would help him. At that moment, the Dark Beast said that he was waiting for her and began to attack her, trying to kill her. Seeing all this, the main character decided that this was his chance to kill him, because there might not be another like him. Luo Ya was already injured and told the others that this thing had assimilated with Miao Long. She told the main character that it seemed useless to try to pierce the heart of this creature, and therefore we should try to cut off its head. Someone approached the main character, and he asked them to kill that creature, because it was no longer their comrade. One of these people said that it was none of his business, and ended up killing the creature. After seeing the dark force skill bubbles after being killed, the protagonist wondered if he would become evil if he picked it up. Hoping that the system had not deceived him, he decided to first pick up the ball and then find out everything. After picking up the ball, the system congratulated him on obtaining the dark skill of Dark Great Power. He didn't understand what it was, because unlike other types of great power, this one gave off sensations of cold and darkness. In total, he dropped 8 skill bubbles, but this one is something special. He remembered that mentally ill people lose skill bubbles, but in that case, dark power bubbles are rare, which means they are not related to it. The main character asked these people if they knew anything about a skill with dark power. Luo Yu asked why they would tell him about this. The man said that they needed to quickly get rid of the corpse and leave so that they wouldn't have nightmares at night. While they were disposing of the corpse, they told him that they actually didn't know much about the Dark Force or the Dark Beasts, and perhaps they could get more information from the city after they gave the report to the military. The main character asked if they were talking about the military from their continent Shinwu or from Earth. Luo Yu replied that the military of the two sides should know about this, because this decree was promulgated 20 years ago, according to which both sides must be immediately notified of the appearance of a dark beast. The main character asked why the military was worried about dark beasts. She replied that they say that dark beasts have appeared before, but in recent years it has been happening more and more often. The military only recently revealed information about them. The main character went to the city and reached the northern district of the city of Yongcheng, the headquarters of the earthly troops. At the checkpoint, they stopped him and informed him that this was a specially protected zone, after which they asked him to get out of the car and present his documents. The main character said that he was from a martial arts academy and that he had important information. After confirming his identity, he was asked what exactly happened and what important information he had for them. The main character replied that he had met a dark beast and that he had information about him. They eventually brought him to some office, where they asked again whether he really met a dark beast in a foggy forest. He said that everything was exactly like that, and he also said that there was a group of warriors from another world there. Next, he gave them a piece of the body as evidence, which he removed from the dark beast and offered to take it for research. He was told that he had done a good job, because the corpses of dark beasts could infect other living beings if they were not removed in time. The man also said that Lao Fu told him that he was the champion of the Donghai martial arts exam and asked if that was true. The main character asked if he was talking about the owner of the gym and if he was from Donghai. The boss replied that he understood everything correctly and that he was his old friend. He also said that he knows that he is his favorite. After this, the main character asked General Shen to tell him what this dark beast was. The general asked if he knew about the expansion of the martial arts exam this year. The main character answered positively. The general further said that he knows that they are dealing with these dark creatures, and many fighters have died in battles with them, so they are expanding their recruitment. The main character asked that if confronting dark beasts is a problem in another world, then why do they make such efforts for this? The general replied that it was also not safe on the ground, and they could also get hurt. Now the main character has finally realized that this is why the spatial rift is heavily guarded. The general said that this is why martial artists were sent to another world, because the more privileges they have, the more responsibilities they have. The general also said that there is no need to worry, because students do not have to go to the front lines of battles, and there are those who choose clerical work in the rear. The main character asked how things were on the front line. The general replied that he would see this when he entered the university, and he added that the dark beast he met was of the lowest level. And then the main character asked the last question, where did the dark animals come from? The general answered him that they came from the abyss. A few days later, while in the middle of the street, the main character remembered that they had sold all the materials they got from the killed star beasts, and now he had a lot of money. He decided to return home and visit his parents. At that moment, he saw that there was a fire in an elite residential complex, and the question arose in his mind how this could happen. As he ran past a group of girls, he heard one of them ask the other if she had heard that there had been an accident in the house of the rich Wang family. He decided to eavesdrop, and the other at that moment said that she learned that the head of the family killed someone, and the son of this person became a martial artist to take revenge. He approached them, recognized Aunt Xiao there, and asked what exactly happened in the Wang family's house. She replied that she went to Wang Fugai's house to see what happened there, but the man asked her not to interfere. He said it was good that it didn't happen in his house. She asked to go to her parents anyway because their house is nearby, and it would be bad if the fire affected it. After he left, she said he became very polite. Therefore, the Wang family has nothing to worry about. Another girl said that this guy was promising, and that it would be interesting to watch him in the future. Li observed this situation, and realized that she could not even imagine that the Wang family would die in the fire, but Du was still so small, and she was probably killed too. Then she saw how some guy carried her out and asked to stop and let the girl go because she was definitely not guilty of anything. This guy said that his parents were not guilty either, but when Wang Fugui killed them, no one stood up for them. Li saw that he was really hurt and that she shouldn't blame him for what he did, but she wanted to save Du. He asked her to leave because he didn't want to kill her. Li said he was sorry that this happened to his parents, but she couldn't bear to watch him kill a child. He told her that if she wanted it so much, he would eventually kill not only the girl, but her too. At that moment, the main character ran out and cut off his hand with which he wanted to kill her. The girl ran to the protagonist's mother and he told her that everything would be okay now because he came on time. He further told that guy that his hatred does not bother him, but if he even lays a finger on his mother, he will break his other arm, teaching him a lesson. Yanqing said that if he is not going to kill him, then in that case he will die. The main character said that he is weaker than him, so whether he wants it or not, he must obey him. He further said that he was giving him one last chance to continue cultivating and training, after which he could find him and take revenge. When leaving, Yanqing asked the main character's mother if she was happy. She replied that it did not matter, because the only important thing was that he should follow his heart. Next, she asked the main character what if he does not cope with his problems and will take revenge on him in the future. He asked her if she wanted him to kill him on the spot, because that would be cruel. She answered negatively, and asked how he could even say such a thing to his mother. He replied that he was just joking. But in his thoughts he understood that his mother should not have gotten involved with that martial arts master, and it's good that everything worked out and that he was able to protect her. Then the police arrived at the house and one of them told Chai when they met that they had met again. The policeman told the main character that they were doing everything as usual, drawing up a report. He asked what happened to this girl. The main character's mother replied that her parents died and she was worried about her, so she asked if she could live with her for now. He answered positively. Mom said that if nothing more was required from them, they would leave and they were released. The main character asked what she was going to do. Mom replied that Dudu's mother said that Wang Fugui's relatives were not good people and that the girl should not be given to them. The main character agreed to this, and he will protect them. Mom said that she knows that he has become stronger, but still he must be careful when going outside. He said that they needed to move to an area where families of martial artists lived and offered to look for a house there. She agreed, then they looked at the house and began to move into it. The father said that he began to be useful, bought a house for 300 million and said that he had never had so much money in his life. The main character said that he would be even more useful in the future. At some point, the main character's mother noticed that Dudu was acting strange and asked her what happened. The girl replied that she wanted to go home and that she missed her mom and dad. Lee asked the girl to live with her for a while because her mom and dad are now very far away. The girl said that they didn't need her and started crying. Aunt said that they love her more than anything in the world, and of course they need her. The girl asked why they didn't come for her then. Was it because they died? Mom asked her father if they could adopt her, because her relatives could not be trusted as they could harm her. The father replied that she could live with them and that he did not see anything bad in it. 3 days later, the protagonist's grandfather thanked everyone for coming to the banquet in honor of his grandson and offered to drink for it. One of those present said that old man Wang has not lost his touch at his age. Someone else congratulated him on raising a martial arts champion in their family. At that moment, some guest came and said that it was good that he was on time when everything had just begun. Wang Shenghong, the eldest son of the Wang family, asked the guest who he was. The guest replied that he was the one who brought the gift. The main character saw that this guest decided to give a bell and remembered that giving a bell for a holiday is considered a bad omen. Next, the guest took out a communication device and connected them with Ren Jianping, who told his grandfather, Wang Zhengxiong, that they had not seen him for a long time, and now such an opportunity had arisen. Grandfather asked if he had died when they saw him for the last time. He recalled that he seemed to have shot him then, but he was very lucky, and that is why they are talking now. He also said that apparently they should have put more bullets into him then. Grandfather said that it was a pity that he was allowed to live for so many years and asked if he had now decided to find him in order to take revenge. He answered positively and added that before he had no chance, but now his family is much stronger than theirs, and therefore he came to get even with him. He also said that it was he who kidnapped his son last time, and even though he doesn't have much time left, he will still take their family with him to the next world. And after that, he asked Zhu to present his gift. The guest agreed, put the communication device back in his pocket, and carried the bell from the doors closer to the center of the house. The eldest son said that he was mocking him and asked to call people here while he detained him. The guest said that this was too presumptuous and rang the bell after that, saying that it was for them and that they should catch it. The main character was the first to decide to try to stop him. Seeing this, everyone present, including his family, was afraid for him. Only one guest was happy, saying that he had been waiting for the moment when he would appear. At some point, this guest remembered that intelligence had reported that he had a level 1-star master, but he saw that this was not at all the case. Having stopped the bell, which the guest had caught, the main character asked him if he was still standing. The guest replied that he was very naive and added that he was a master of the earth style, so he could not cope with its power. The main character asked if he was also sure of this now, adding gravity. The guest at that moment mentally wondered how this was possible, since it had become much harder. Next, the guest began asking him standard questions. How is this possible and where does such power come from? After killing the guest, he asked the cleaners to clean the place after everything that happened. He further told all the guests that it was a great show, which was already over, and so they could return to food and drinks. The eldest son told the protagonist's father that his son was very talented and that he would achieve a lot in the future. The grandfather asked him to take care of his son, because with such a guy the family would prosper. But in his thoughts he remembered that the most important at the moment were the threats of Ren Jianping, because he was already on the verge of death and therefore had probably gone crazy. The main character guessed what grandfather was thinking and asked him not to worry, because he was unlikely to dare to openly declare himself in Donghai. In addition, he entered the Huanghai Military Academy, so he is not afraid of him. Grandfather said that it was great that his grandson would help solve his grandfather's problems. The main character asked his grandfather what happened to them then. Grandfather replied that it was several decades ago. They lived in the same village and were friends, then they left together to look for work. Heroes have always been attracted to beauties, so they both fell in love with his grandmother. He further said that, as he understands, she chose him, but he turned away from him and hated him to the core. After that, he wanted to kill him, but he was careless and he struck first and did not think that he could survive then. The main character listened to this story and told his grandfather that he was greatly surprised. Jua then began to ask to be released, but at that moment he was tied up. Wang Shenghong asked if he had died. The main character replied that he simply stunned him. The enemy asked what he wanted to do. The main character replied that after answering his questions, he would let him go. The enemy asked if it was true. The main character replied that he had no other choice, because if he did not tell everything, he would kill him. The enemy said that he understood everything and asked to start asking questions. The main character asked the first question about what he knows about Ren Jianping. He replied that he was an ordinary person, but his grandson Ian Qingchang was a martial arts master. He further said that the Thunder Martial Arts Hall entered into an SS-level contract with this grandson, and he became a student of the owner of the hall himself. He later became a 6-star martial artist, giving the family strong influence. Grandfather said that even if one of these facts is discarded, it is still very dangerous. The protagonist's grandfather also understood why that grandfather said that there was a genius in the family. It turns out that this is his grandson. The main character was asked if he was okay. He answered positively and said that he was given a contract at the SS level, and he signed a contract at the SSS level. Next, the main character asked to give him time, during which he would still show this guy a lot. Grandfather agreed and said that before he reached the peak of his strength, he should continue to train and not fight with that grandson at this time. The main character said that he understood everything. Next, the grandfather asked what he would do with the guest. The guest at that moment recalled that they said that they would release him after answering the questions. The main character asked him to calm down and said that he would keep his word. After they let him go, grandfather said that if you remove the weeds but leave the roots alone, the problem will not be solved. The main character asked his grandfather not to worry because as soon as he left Donghai, death awaited him. Jua, already on the plane, suggested that it seems that this child does not understand anything because when he returns to Xiadu, he will tell Ren Qingcheng about everything and he will send professional killers to the Wang family. After some time, the main character suggested that it looked like the unexpected guest was already dead because he used the power of his mind to attach a silver needle to him, which pierced his heart. Then he decided to return home because he would still need to pack his things and go to school tomorrow. Arriving at the right place the next day, the main character had a question whether this is a military academy because this place looks impressive and there are a lot of people here. Next, he went to where the freshmen were asked to go and told them there that the martial arts faculty dormitory was divided into 4 blocks, namely A, B, C, and D. Freshmen usually live in Block D, which has 300 rooms. Each room accommodates 4 people, that is, a total of 1,200 people can be accommodated. Level 1-star martial artists live in separate rooms in Block C, where there are only 300 of them, meaning 300 people can live there. Level 2 and 3-star martial artists live in Block B with good infrastructure, with a total of 200 rooms. Block A is the most elite, where 100 of the best masters live. Most of them are 4th years. Their level is above 3, so they will have to work hard to get there. Someone said with joy that the hostel was for boys and girls without separation. The one who spoke said that she was misunderstood. She also said that only students of the same sex can live in the same room, sharing only the territory. They also announced one rule, according to which anyone can challenge one of the top 100 students, and if he wins, he can take his room in the dormitory. The presenter also moved on to the distribution of rooms and began to announce who had already been assigned to which room. The main character listened to this long list and decided to ask if they could help him find out what room he lives in. He was told that he would live in Block C in room 1. One of the students told him that none of the newcomers had ever entered the first room of Block C. He asked what was wrong with that. He was told that the first room in each block is a special place in which the strongest student from the corresponding group lives, and that he is the first newcomer who managed to immediately occupy this room. He was also told that he would definitely attract everyone's attention, and many would want to attack him, so he had to be careful. The main character said that in the worst case, they will organize a competition, and everyone will understand that he is the strongest. At that moment, he remembered that he was already a level 3 master, so there was nothing to be afraid of. The next day, you had to come running at the right time, and those who were even a second late didn't get in because the gates had already closed. Next, the dean of the martial arts faculty of the Huanghai Military Academy, Peng Yuanshan, told the latecomers that they disappointed him today. After all, the military academy is a place where soldiers are trained, and they were late for training. He ordered them all to stand still and disgrace themselves. After all, a soldier's duty is to obey orders. They entered a military academy, which means they must abide by its rules. He asked those who were late to run 20 laps around the site. The main character fell into a group of latecomers and was upset. Another student asked if anyone could really run that long. The dean also added that they did not receive the privileges of the military academy in order to enjoy life, because they are future soldiers with a great responsibility hanging on their shoulders. He also said that one day the day will come when they will understand that when the world needs them, they must stand in the forefront, because their family and friends will be behind them. The strongest, according to him, is not the one who carries the sun, but the one who bears the burden of responsibility for other people and for all life on the planet. The main character appreciated that it was said well, and given that he knows about the abyss, he better understands the meaning of his words, but why he said it so creepily is not entirely clear. The dean also announced the last thing for today, namely, the conferment of a military rank. After all, the fact is that one of the freshmen received a great honor. He further recalled that they had all heard about the Donghai martial exam and said that the champion of this exam was awarded the rank of sergeant. He also said that he knows that the senior students are now unhappy, but the main character is special and he decided to give them a chance, saying that students of his level can challenge him and, if they win, receive his rank of sergeant. He further asked the main character, without hesitation, to quickly get up on stage to present the title. He got up on stage and the dean told him that many years had passed since the freshman was awarded a military rank and he was glad that they had such a student. He also said that his journey has just begun, many challenges await him ahead of him, and he hopes that by the end of his training he will have added a few more awards and that in the end he will see the general's armor on him. The main character said that his title could be given to another person of the same rank as him if he defeated him, and he asked, given this, whether he could challenge other people to obtain their rank. The dean replied that this does not work with the military ranks of other people, because through hard work, they earned military merits that cannot be taken away. The main character said that in this case it is unfair and not fair, because if he loses, he will lose his military rank, and if he wins, he will receive nothing. The dean asked what he was proposing. The main character replied that he wants people who want to challenge him to make some kind of bet, for example in the form of training points, which he will receive if he wins. The dean agreed to a limit of no more than 100 points per bet. At that moment, the dean realized that he was good at arguing and smart, which could cause him problems. He even looks like him in his youth in his opinion. Next, the dean announced to everyone that that's all for today, and tomorrow at 8 a.m. they will begin to choose a department, details of which they can see on the official website, and asked not to be late. The next day, one of them approached the main character and suggested that they go together to the training ground and prepare for the ceremony of distribution into departments. He agreed and on the way asked why he called him. He replied that this was because he was tough and that he needed to stay close to strong people. He also asked the main character if he knew anything about the 5 branches of the academy. The main character answered negatively and asked to tell. And he began the story that there is a military department where the main focus is on developing the combat skills of students, who in the future will become the main force on the battlefields. This department has the highest mortality rate, so students must be aware that they are taking a risk. There is also a blacksmithing department that teaches forging techniques to create weapons suitable for warriors. There is an alchemical department where alchemical skills are developed and warriors are supplied with elixirs for cultivation and treatment. The runic department conducts a comprehensive in-depth study of runes. The officer branch is responsible for training tactical command personnel. The main character realized that it seemed that each branch had its own advantages, and the question arose whether it was possible to select all branches, because this way he could collect many different bubbles with skills. The dean saw that it seemed that no one was late today, and that they had remembered yesterday's lesson for a long time, after which he decided not to delay and give the floor to the heads of departments. The first to take the stage was Tong Hu, the head of the military branch, who only said that the strongest join the military branch. Su Jing said that he was mistaken because his students were only strong individually, and then asked if he had ever won a military exercise against their officer squad. He told everyone present that in his opinion, warriors should be strong, but developing mental abilities is also important. Indeed, in ancient times, one talented commander was able to single-handedly defeat 1,000 troops with the help of his mind. The head of the military branch accused him of playing his dirty tricks again. The head of the officer section asked if the commander was the heart of the army, and if he knew about the strategy of winning for 1,000 li. Next, Wu Jiangsun, the head of the blacksmith department, asked the previous ones not to argue, after which he warned those present that learning blacksmithing requires exceptional talent. After him, Kui He, the head of the alchemy department, came out and said that alchemy is a more skillful work than this crude forging, and if the student considers himself talented enough, then he can pass the test. He also added that everything is simple in their department because there are many elixirs, which, if necessary, you drink, throw away the bottle and move on. Next, the head of the runic department, Situ Jun, introduced herself and said that their department was suitable for those interested in studying runes. The main character realized that these 5 did not look very reliable, but despite this, he decided to come up and choose a department for himself. Seeing that he took away all the registration forms, everyone was very surprised at that moment. The dean got angry and asked if he really wanted to choose all 5 departments, what he thought of himself, and whether he considered himself an unsurpassed genius. He also told him that he did not have enough strength for this, because you cannot jump over your head as it is self-destructive and irresponsible. He also said that he used to take it all as a joke, but now he was tired of it all, after which he asked him to think carefully and choose one of the departments. The main character replied that he just wanted to study more disciplines. The dean said that it was commendable that he wanted to learn a lot, but he suggested that he enroll in the military department as his main specialization. Regarding the remaining departments, he promised to issue him a student pass so that he could attend classes in other departments. But this should not affect his combat training at the same time. After the main character agreed to this, the dean suggested continuing the distribution without tricks. A few days later, the main character walked past some guy and said that it seemed like they didn't know each other. That guy said that his name is Wei Hua. He is a second year and a level 1 star master. He further said that he heard that he was also accepted into the academy with level 1, so he wants to see how strong he is. The main character asked if he really wanted to challenge him. He replied that this method was hardly suitable. The main character asked him to prepare 100 study points. He said that he just came to see his strength. The main character said that if he doesn't have 100 points, then his time shouldn't be wasted. Wei Hua suggested meeting tomorrow at noon at the training ground and said that he would find those 100 points. The main character agreed to this meeting, and that guy went with the thought that this arrogant freshman does not understand what he is getting into and that he does not need to prepare 100 points, because he will lose anyway. He decided that he would win and take the title away from him, and 100 training points equaled only 1 million in the outside world. The main character understood that he wanted to fool him, and decided that tomorrow he should pretend that he won with difficulty, so that as many people as possible would want to challenge him. The next day they both arrived at the appointed time and place. The enemy told the main character that he was late. The main character replied that the freshmen were currently undergoing military training, and that he could talk to his instructor about it. The enemy said that this was nonsense. The opponent decided to go to the beginning of the fight and announce to everyone that they would all be witnesses, and if he loses, he will give the main character 100 points, but if he wins, he will receive his title. Yang Lin, along with Chen Su, proposed members of the martial arts club as judges. The opponent said that it would be a great honor for him. The main character said that he doesn't mind. Next, the opponent said that he would use a sword and asked the main character what he would use. The main character replied that he would use a brick, which when taken out immediately blinded everyone. The opponent asked why he uses a brick instead of a normal weapon, and whether he decided to make a joke on him. And he also said that today he will learn that there is always someone better than him. The main character asked him to attack with the thought that this should be enough. After some time of battle, the main character was still able to defeat his opponent in a duel. The main character said that he treats everyone he defeats with respect. He told the judges that he had won this battle and asked them to make sure that he got his honestly earned 100 points. He was told that he had nothing to worry about because their martial arts club would supervise everything. At the same moment, Jo Kun, a second-year student, approached the protagonist and asked how about fighting tonight after his military training. The main character agreed to this and asked to prepare his points before the fight. They finally met in the evening and the opponent apologized in advance for being late. This time the main character said that enough chatter and suggested starting a fight. This time he realized that it looked like he was serious, so he should take it seriously. After this, they began to fight with their fists without any additional weapons. The opponent saw the strength of the main character, and the question arose in him whether he was just fighting with his previous opponent with one hand. While the opponent was thinking, the main character said that it was better not to be distracted during the fight with him. The main character told the rival after some time when he decided to end this show that he recognized his strength, so he receives a gift in the form of a brick hit. He told the judges that the competition was over. The judges asked if next time he could avoid hitting anyone in the head with a brick. The main character replied that somehow it just happens, and in his mind, he understood that they should not find out that after a blow to the head, more bubbles spilled out. The judge said he didn't think a freshman could have such hand-to-hand combat skills. The main character replied that it was just luck, and that the opponent was very strong, to whom he almost lost. The judges did not believe him, and one of them asked if he would like to join their martial arts club, because here they not only judged his fights, but also assessed his strength and skills. The main character said that he thought the martial arts club was always watching the fights. The judge confirmed and said that their club is indeed responsible for the fair conduct of fights, but there are a lot of masters in the academy. Another judge added that fights happen all the time, so they need new people so they don't get tired to death. He also said that the club has a reward system, such as receiving training points every month. The main character said that if so, then he agrees to join them. He understood that in this club he might have many problems, but there were more advantages. A few days later, the main character was informed that he had been called to fight again. The main character asked what was happening and whether he had already beaten all these pensioners. He told him that this time he was challenged by senior student Zhuo Tai, who used to live in his room, but he pushed him out and now this guy is very angry. The main character said that he thought that this person would come to fight him first, but for some reason he showed up only now. He said that he had heard that he had studied it thoroughly. The main character said that he can do whatever he wants, and he also remembered that in the past few days, he had collected the skill bubbles of a dozen masters and would soon become a level 4-star master, so he had nothing to fear from him. This opponent was asked to be confident in himself, because he is the best in the second year, and if he loses, then their entire course will lose face. The opponent replied that no matter how strong he was only a level 1 master, and he would definitely beat him. The opponent remembered that last year in his first year he won all the fights and should have remained the best, but this guy stole all the attention, so he must defeat him. At the martial arts club, some guy said that he told Lao Zhuang that there was no need to gather everyone here and that he still wanted to take on all the tasks. The girl said that she also wanted to take on some tasks for herself. The one who gathered them said that he called them here so that they could look at the list of freshmen compiled by Chen Su and Yang Lin, and then propose to make a decision on the newcomers together. The girl said that all these freshmen are quite strong, but they don't know everything about them yet, so they will need to look at them in the future. The person who gathered said that when recruiting new members to their club, they should not rush, because they need to make a deliberate decision, and in addition, he asked whether the newcomer, who is now in first place, is really so strong. His words confirmed and added that now there are a lot of rumors about him, and they say that he wants to fight Zhuo Tan, which they want to see. They were asked why they should look at the first-ranked player, and said that this rival of his simply had nothing to do, so he wanted to disgrace himself in front of the entire academy. Someone answered that the main character defeated all the second-year students. The assembled person realized at that moment that the dean, apparently, had screwed up the senior class a lot, and most likely, he himself did not think that this would happen. The head of the military department said that Zhuo Tai is the prefect of the second year of the military department, and the main character seems to irritate him a lot with his antics. Another head told him that he himself was glad that such a strong student had come to their academy. He replied that when two tigers fight, one is sure to suffer, so he feels sorry for him. He was told that everything would probably be wrong, because the main character cannot be omnipotent. He replied that it was quite possible that the main character still had many tricks up his sleeve. The next day, a lot of people gathered to watch the fight. Even Teacher Liu from the military department and a teacher from the officer department came, as well as a teacher from the blacksmith department. The opponent was already on the battlefield, but the main character was still not there, and many already began to think that he was afraid of him. A little later, the main character finally came and reminded that they had agreed on exactly 12, and there was still a minute before the appointed time, so there was no point in everyone being so worried. The main character was informed that this battle is different from the previous ones, because written notification means that this battle will be deadly. The opponent asked the main character whether he would fight or refuse the fight. The main character replied that his aggression does not affect him, so if he wants to fight, then the fight will take place. The main character also said that there is no enmity between them, but this is the first time he has heard that a written challenge to a fight means a duel to the death. The opponent said that even if the warrior is not only for victory and defeat, but death is also quite likely. After the first blow, the opponent realized that it was an illusion and that he had not hit him, after which he began to look for where the real protagonist was at that moment. At this moment, the main character, during a blow from behind, greeted him and said that they had not seen him for a long time. Many did not understand what level he was and wondered if he really used fencing techniques, combining it with great strength. The main character asked his opponent what happened and where all his ardor went. The opponent asked him not to joke with him like that and went to attack the main character again. Watching one of the opponent's next attacks, many realized that the opponent had deliberately suppressed his power level in order to reveal it in battle. Alive and unharmed, the main character asked if this was really his trump card that he was now using. The opponent said that he recognizes his strength, but now he is a level 2-star master and is going to restore the reputation of the second year. The main character said that he also accidentally moved to a new level, and since they both had already revealed their cards, it was time to continue the fight. They continued the fight, and at some point the opponent said that his appearance could affect his future, so he must get rid of him in order to further develop himself. Having thrown a brick at his opponent, the main character said that he would obviously not be able to rise due to it. Next, the main character asked for forgiveness for hitting him, but that's not all in this fight. The main character took out his sword and said that his fencing leaves much to be desired, so now he will show him the real art of swordsmanship. After the attack of the main character, the opponent remained alive and told him that now the whirlwind of blades would teach him a lesson. The main character saw this and said that he admitted that he was indeed a worthy opponent, but he had something better. The main character then used his blade power to show his opponent that he was not so good at this either. As a result, the main character decided to end it all and won this fight using the elements. The main character told Teacher Chen that now he is a level 2-star master, so he can give him his student of the same level, and the same will happen with level 3. He promised to kill everyone, one by one. The teacher called him a bastard. The main character said that he was never afraid of threats and destroys everything that stands in his way. And if he doesn't like humiliation, then he can prepare points to challenge him. The teacher asked if he thought he would lose. The main character replied that he never thinks about it. The main character looked at the leaving teacher and realized that he would definitely collide with him, but he has every chance to quickly get level 5-star master, so it's not scary. After Jotai, he received good bubbles with medium-level gold elemental skills and another +8 to the strength of the golden sword. He told everyone present that since their fight was over, he would go to rest. In the room, he realized that the fire swords were quite hot and exuded fury. Golden swords are sharper and all their power is concentrated at one point, and if you mix these elements, it will be cool. The dean realized that he did not think that the main character could cause him such trouble, because he just wanted to be snitched on. A few days later, the main character came to the place where the tasks were issued. He remembered that there were many types of missions, namely military missions, police station missions, city guard missions, academy missions, and other world missions. To begin with, he decided to take on some easy task for the weekend, such as going to Mount Chunhuashan and collecting medicinal herbs. Besides, this is a mission from the academy. He eventually went to the mountain. His friend had driven him to the mountain in a car. He met an ant further along the way and asked how he could get to Mount Chunhuashan. The ant told him that it was not safe there, and since he was still very young, it was better for him to return home. He told her that he definitely needed to get to the mountain because he had important business there. He also asked not to worry about him because since he came here, it means he's ready for anything, and this is no joke for him. The ant said that they, the city people, never listened to the advice of their elders, and said that yesterday 3 young people went up this mountain, but she did not see how they came down from there. He asked what they were wearing and whether they said why they went to the mountain. She asked what the purpose of his interest was in this whole current situation. He replied that he just took out the money and asked if she could sell him the information. When she saw the money, she said that the 3 were dressed almost like him and had weapons with them. They said they were looking for something in the mountains and asked local herbalists to show them the way. He wondered if these people had also come for the ghostly flame herb and he would fail his first mission. Then he decided that this would not work, and since he had come here, he needed to go to the mountains and see what was happening there. The protagonist asked after some thought if there were any other herb gatherers in the village. Auntie answered negatively and said that only one person is doing this because people are now afraid to climb the mountains. She also said that this herbalist's name is Bai Lauhan, and that his daughter also often goes to the mountains. She is familiar with that area, so he can ask her in more detail about everything. He thanked her for the information, gave her the money, and asked if he could find out the address of that herbalist. She replied that since he was a good guy, she would take him to his house. Having brought him to the house, she knocked, asked if anyone was at home, and said that guests had come to them. She opened it and asked Aunt Lee what happened and who this guest was. The aunt replied that this city young man wants to go to the mountains and is looking for a guide. She invited him to come in to start talking. In the courtyard, she asked if he really wanted to go to the mountains. He confirmed and said that he heard that 3 had already gone there. He asked and showed if it was the right grass that they were looking for. Recognizing the grass of the ghostly flame, she asked if he had come for it too. He asked if she had heard of her, since it seemed like they were looking for the same thing as him and that they were all here for it. He also asked if she knew where to find her in that case. She replied that she knew, because Dad told her about her. She said she was afraid to go there alone. He asked if she had a map of the mountain. She answered in the negative and said that it was all in her head. She also said that she had never gone there, but she knew the way and therefore she would take him. In addition, she needs to find her father, but he must pay her about 3,000. He said that he agreed to pay 5,000, and if she could get him there before noon, she would give him more. She agreed and said that in this case, she would now change clothes, take the tools, and they would hit the road.